are you? I'm gonna try to make this quick, so I'll just be here for 3 hours. This live stream, we're just gonna look at two things. Well, I guess technically three. We're just gonna look at 2 to 3 things. Um, so first of all, in the Google search monopoly case that we've been covering, we've kind of gone over a little bit both the search monopoly case and the ad technology case, but most of the coverage has been focused primarily on the search monopoly case, and all of the legal documentation has been on the search monopoly case against Google. And so, yeah, fucking in the search monopoly case against Google's documentation, two things came out, like the code yellow and the code red, in their internal communication that they were kind of using to like alarm each other about different issues. And so when I was reading about that, I was curious as to more about, because I know how like different people could have a concept of like code red, right? But like how they perceive it and use it within their organization, what that means for them and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So, I just pulled up some information that I could find online about the concept of Google and Code Red and Code Yellow, and I figured we could go through both of those things. And then we've been going through the How to Start a Startup playlist from Y Combinator, which is a program from Stanford University. But this was put out like 10 years ago. Um, and so we've been rewatching the videos from 10 years ago because I've just been reflecting on like different content, like I watched it then when I was first starting out in business, and I'm just kind of like thinking about like rewatching and seeing like did that age well for me, like, and thinking about how I felt about these things then versus now, because some of the things, like some of it I was already like this is really good shit, like I didn't know, and then some of it, back then, and then some of it I was like, I don't know if I feel value aligned with this, but I didn't know enough about business, in my opinion, to fully like articulate some of the issues with why things were wrong. Um, in the lecture series at the time, I just knew I didn't like it then. You know what I'm saying? So now that I've been doing business for about a decade, I'm rewatching all of this just to kind of marinate. And think about like how do I feel about this now that I'm older and I know a bit more and have kind of done a little bit of it myself, to a degree. So yeah, fucking and this lecture is from this time we'll be watching the seventh lecture. There's two of the playlists linked in the description of the video about this. The one that's labeled Y Combinator, that's the original videos without my input. And you can go watch that, the original videos as they are. And then the one labeled my commentary and reaction or whatever is the videos where I've done commentary and reaction on this stuff so far. So, yeah, you can go watch it all there because we have been watching these videos at 2 times speed, by the way. Um, so, yeah, fucking, you can go watch it without my commentary and at regular speed. Link is in the description of the video. And that would be from Y Combinator from Stanford University, the How to Start a Startup lecture playlist series. We're on the seventh one, How to Build Products Users Love. And this one is presented to us by Kevin Hale. And Kevin Hale is one of the partners at Y Combinator, which is the program that we've been watching this lecture through. Um, but also, he's a founder of another company called Wufoo, but I don't know shit about it. WUFOO. I don't even know if it still exists or not. It could. It could be doing great. It could be dead. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so he did found. He was the founder of that company. Um, either way, and yeah, so he was working on that about 10 years ago. Um, so yeah, so fucking, I'm gonna roll my intro, and then we will go through the Code Yellow and Code Red material about Google that I pulled up so far. Um, Good to learn more about that real quick, and then we will do the reaction on the How to Start a Startup playlist and continue that. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Okay, so first up, I did do a search result kind of thing here. Let's zoom in a bit. All right, so just our initial AI overview here. I don't know how accurate this information is because sometimes I feel like the AI overview will say things and then I will click on the links for the AI overview and the links it takes me to don't even say what the fuck is in the AI overview. I've had that issue before. It's really annoyed me. So sometimes I don't like the AI overview because I know that'll be wrong. And when it comes to certain cultural information, for example, on my family history, for example, when we look into that online, that shit is wrong as fuck. It's just whitewashed history. They don't even go ask, like, what? It's just, ugh. So, yeah, but there's a lot of flaws with it, but it can be accurate too. Because, for example, sometimes if I Google um, how to make macaroni and cheese or something, I'll get, whether or not you like those specific recipes, you're still going to get accurate recipes on how to make macaroni and cheese, for example. So I find Google to be hit or miss with the accuracy, to be honest. Um, but yeah, so that's why it's just we're just gonna see what the Google AI overview is telling us right now, and then we're looking at everything else. So yeah, it's saying code yellow is a term used by Google to indicate a crisis or emergency situation that requires immediate action. For 2019, it says in February 2019, Google declared a code yellow after a decline in user queries. The emergency lasted for 7 weeks and involved reassigning the search and Chrome browser teams to determine the cause of the slowdown. The situation raised concerns about the quality of search results, the effectiveness of Google's decision-making process, and the potential blurring of the line between the search and ads divisions. So yeah, and then 2008, it says Google also declared a code yellow in 2008 to improve speed. The term comes from the color of a tank top owned by engineering director Wayne Rosen. During a code yellow, a leader can call on anyone at Google, regardless of their current project, to help. Hmm. I thought like it meant like traffic signal, like red, yellow, green, in terms of urgency priority. I don't know. Okay, cool. So that's what they mean by code yellow. All right. And then it said some components of a successful code yellow include defining the problem clearly and getting all stakeholders to agree on it, setting specific measurable goals with a clear start and end date, dividing the work into manageable sections. The code of a code, what the fuck am I saying? The goal of a code yellow is to help a team move from a reactive mode to a proactive one, where they can work on the right projects and be more effective. So yeah, and then I figured I pulled up some sources after that to check out, get a little bit more into these details here. So this is just the general AI overview of Code Yellow, which I think is interesting. So according to their AI overview search result here, it's used by them to indicate a crisis or emergency situation that requires immediate action. I do think this part here, a leader can call on anyone at Google regardless of the current project to help, is interesting to do. Like on one level, I get to a certain degree, like when companies go through crisis, it can be all hands on deck. Everybody's up in their thing doing that bitch. But in another way, it's just like this kind of feels like an excuse to make people do extra work that you're not paying them to do. Or is that being done instead of the other work they were supposed to do? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, could either really be like something that's just helpful in terms of organizing and actually moving a community to act, or it could be harmful depending on how it's used, in my opinion, just like on concept. And again, I've never worked at Google, so I don't know what that looks like inside Google. That's just like what I think when I see that concept. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, all right. So then I figure we could look at some more of these sources, just like kind of seeing what other people have to say about these concepts. We're still on Code Yellow here. So we've got Ross Sheet. Is this Lazarowitz? I don't know how to say that. I don't know if it's Lazarowitz or if it's Lazarowitz. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we got this Ross dude. And this title is called Code Yellow, the secret weapon for tackling product disarray. It's from May 2023. And it says Code Yellow, the secret weapon for tackling disarray. Oh wait, I read it again. Whatever, fuck it. It says, are you a startup that's been heads down racing to build features and now finds yourself with more bugs than time or people? Or maybe you are a larger company that's let your product fall into disarray. If this resonates with you, it's time to call for a Code Yellow and establish a war room. What is a Code Yellow? The term Code Yellow seems to have originated at Google. In 2008, Google declared a Code Yellow to improve speed, granting a designated leader the power to recruit anyone within Google to help out, regardless of their current project. And so yeah, and then it says, but it repeats that same quote. I was just about to reread it, but fuck it. And then it says there are 4 key components to a successful Code Yellow. 1. Problem statement. Clearly define the problem and ensure it's agreed upon by all stakeholders. 2. Exit criteria. Set specific, measurable goals to achieve. For example, reduce latency from 5 seconds to 5 milliseconds. 3. Time frame. Clearly define the start and end dates, as this operating model isn't sustainable indefinitely. 4. Work streams. Divide the work into manageable sections, such as availability and design. The Code Yellow operating model in a nutshell. Appoint a war room chief operator, usually the vice president or head of engineering, and operators for each work stream. These individuals can make decisions within their work streams, with the chief operator having the final say. Implement a daily stand-up to review the war room backlog and provide status updates. A project management tool like Jira can be helpful for tracking progress. Hold daily office hours for operators to clarify scope, resolve disputes, or review requirements. This provides a clear channel for decision making. Provide daily updates to the engineering team and stakeholders to keep them informed. Advice from the trenches. A Code Yellow is a challenging yet powerful tool in the engineering management arsenal. Use it with caution and keep the company and team's well-being in mind. The initial weeks will be disruptive, but always remember the importance of solving the problem at hand. To help visualize this process, I've created a fictional Code Yellow memo as an example. If you find yourself in need of a Code Yellow, consider sharing a similar memo with your engineering team. I really don't want to read this whole memo, so I'm not going to, but I'm going to just tell you the overview of it. But it says the product usability Code Yellow was declared today at the company kickoff meeting. So here they're saying that they're declaring one. They're saying that the daily war room is going to start February 15th and be for 90 days. And then it says what it addresses, but I don't even know what the fuck that acronym means, so I'm not going to look that up. And then it lists exit criteria, so fixing bugs, achieving a grade for workflow, whatever the fuck they mean by that. And And yeah, and no sales loss. And then they list their operating model in terms of who's in charge, what are their priorities, what's their urgency, um, who can override decisions, how are they communicating, and what will be the outputs in terms of, and for them, they put interlock with sales and users continuously. So, like, I guess they mean what they want the result to be. And then it talks about work streams, and it talks about a coding work stream as well as a design work stream. So in terms of their tech stack and their workflow, you know what I mean, and how that could apply to you and your business. And then it lists the meetings and the meeting times, and then it discusses communications where they want specific tasks to be discussed, such as general communication, the coding, the design, and updates and stuff. Which Slack channel? This looks like a Slack channel that they'd probably put that in or something. And then, or whatever the fuck they use. And then it discusses war room roles. Um, and so, yeah, fucking, like, so it discusses what they're going to do in the morning meeting. Um, what should the developers be doing, and fucking um what to do if you can't access shit. So yeah, and then, so I'm not going to read all of that because I just don't have the mental capacity to right now, but it's linked in the description of this video. And that's the Ross Laser, where the fuck it's pronounced, link on Cold Yellow, the secret weapon for tackling product Disarray. And then after that, it's got some frequently asked questions. And I'm just realizing I totally probably should have zoomed in on this. My bad. I'll try to remember to do that going forward. But it says, what happens with the normal 6-week sprint? While the war room is one of the most important focuses of the next 2 sprints, we will have a regular. Oh, okay. This is part of their. I think it's just part of the their example, perhaps. It says while the war room is one of the most important focuses of the next 2 sprints, we still have a regular program and plans for the sprint, so that the important work that is not part of the war room can continue with defined cadence. So yeah, so here they're saying that people are still expected to continue doing their other shit. So if they just mean like anybody not involved in the code yellow shit will be doing what the fuck they should already be doing, that I feel like is standard. But if they mean if you're involved in the code yellow shit, you gotta be doing both, that I think is a bit questionable in my opinion. Are they getting paid for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? But anyway. And then it says, do I expect to drop everything if I was assigned a critical war room bug? It says, if you don't have critical war customer bugs or production issues, you are expected to prioritize war room bugs. So they're basically saying, yeah, if it's not considered critical. And it says, when there's a conflict and you're not sure, please ask in the, I don't know, I guess this is supposed to be like some sort of shortcut for a channel. Uh, it's telling them which channels to communicate and when, whatever. Okay, so blah blah blah. So it's just showing an example code yellow procedure as it could be used in business. So no one knows, of course, how Google may be specifically doing it themselves, but we can kind of glean into how it's used in business generally. My fucking buttons popped out this dress. I totally probably should have worn something else for this stream, but life is hard. Um, and then here, it discusses Google's war against latency. And this is from 2016 from Mark Kerrigan. And it says acceleration theory can too easily slide into seeing speed as a function of technological innovation. The surprisingly excellent Indaplex offers a nice counterpoint to this, identifying the sheer amount of effort involved throughout an organization in order to increase speed across a diverse range of products. You know, I think that's what the other article was citing also. And it says from page 186, in 2008, Google issued a code yellow for speed, A code yellow is named after a tank top of that color owned by engineering director Wayne Rosing. Rosing? I don't know how to say that. During Code Yellow, a leader is given the shirt and can tap anyone at Google and force him or her to drop a current project to help out. Often, the Code Yellow leader escalates the emergency into a war room situation and pulls people out of their offices and into a conference room for a more extended struggle. This Code Yellow kicked off at a TGIF where I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Halls? Yep, nope, can't pronounce this H word. Where something or someone metered the performance of various Google products around the world, with a running ticker on the big screen in Charlie's Cafe pinpointing the deficiencies. You could hear a pin drop in the room where people were watching how stunningly slow things were, like Gmail in India, says Gabriel Strickler, a Google PR director. After the Code Yellow, Google set a company-wide OKR, the objective key result metric Google uses to set goals, to fight latency. To help meet its goals, the company created a market-based incentive program for product teams to juice up performance, a cap-and-trade model in which teams were mandated latency ceilings or maximum performance times. If a team didn't make its benchmarks, says, oh, this is the person, shit. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce their name. Is it Halsley? Okay. Halsley was the person at TGIF that metered the performance of various Google products. I guess he meant measured. And then, okay, so they're saying Halsley said if a team didn't make its benchmarks, it accrued a debt that had to be paid off by barter with a team that exceeded its benchmarks. You could trade for an engineer or machines, whatever, he said. The metric for this exchange was, oddly enough, human lives. The calculation goes like this. Average human life expectancy is 70 years. That's about 2 billion seconds. If a product has 100 million users and unnecessarily wastes 4 seconds of a user's time every day, that was more than 100 people killed in a year. So if Gmail team wasn't meeting its goals, it might go back to the Picasso team and ask for 10 lives to lift its speed budget into the black. In exchange, the Gmailers might yield 1,000 servers from its allocation or all its massage tickets for the next month. Oh, so that's how they, interesting. So that's how they exchange resources in the company? Okay. I'll have to process that later. Alrighty. Moving on, we got this other article here. This is by Todd Polino from DevOps.com. It's called Code Yellow When Operations Isn't Perfect. And this is from April 2018. Oh shit. Okay, I'm gonna remember to zoom in this time. Totally wish I zoomed in the other time, but then I was like, it's too late when I realized. So we're here now. Okay. So, it says every now and then, engineering teams will get into trouble for any number of reasons. Sometimes, explosive growth catches a team by surprise, or on-call has gotten out of control, with alerts going off every 5 minutes. Or development and operations teams seem simply have stopped seeing eye to eye. Regardless of why, the team is in a bad spot and something needs to be done to resolve it. If it's a new problem, the fix might be easy. Add a few more servers, roll back to a known good application version, or get everyone together over pizza and beers to clear the air. Often, however, the problem creeps up on you over time, and suddenly the hole is so deep you can't find a way out. At LinkedIn, a team that has gotten to this point will often declare a state known as Code Yellow. Yellow alert. Some people assume the name Code Yellow is based on traffic lights, but more accurately, and with a geekier twist, it's actually from your favorite Star Trek series. More precisely, it's how the crew of the Starship Enterprise indicates their current defensive condition. I thought that, so those other two, okay. Going into this, I thought it was a stoplight thing. These other two sources, as well as, I believe, the automatic AI search result is attributing it to Google. That would make sense because where am I finding this from? Google. Of course, Google would attribute them as the source for something now, wouldn't they? So, but seriously, I'm just kidding. I don't know. But I honestly don't know if we can attribute it to Google or if we can attribute it to Star Trek or the Starship Enterprise. But, that can be, subjective. But fucking, I think Star Trek Enterprise sounds cooler. Just me, just me. But anyway, uh, it says fucking. Wait, what the fuck did it say? Shit. What was the last one I read? Whatever. I think I just did the first sentence. It says more precisely, it's how the crew of the Starship Enterprise indicates their current defensive condition. Oh, did I read that? I don't know. Either way, the definition is clear. Something is wrong, and we need to move forward with caution. True to both metaphors, we also have a code red. That's better described as an immediate crisis, with everyone working 24 hours a day until it's resolved. The code yellow is slightly more laid back. This is everyone's primary focus, but during business hours only. Code yellows also tend to last on the order of months, while a code red should last on the order of days. Other companies may use a different term than code yellow, but the effect is the same. The team is communicating to the rest of the company that they've identified a serious problem that is a priority to be fixed to ensure the success of the team and therefore the company. The ability to do this is an important aspect of open and honest communication, a value that is critical to a healthy culture and can often get overlooked. So, this should like what I'm taking from this and marinating that with the legal documentation and seeing how code yellow and code red were discussed in those internal communication documents that we were reading, and that's how I ended up here. So to me, this could be okay. So Google does see these issues that that have been discussed and identified as code yellow and code red as necessary and a priority to ensure their success. I do feel like with more context of the code red and code yellow situation in the law, if that were explained with their presentation and their arguments, that could, potentially be used against Google in terms of intent to monopolize, possibly. Um, if they are saying that they are relying their success on these things that have already been proven to be issues that could be monopolizing, if I'm making sense. Um, And I'm thinking more specifically like with the revenue share agreements and distribution agreements that locked people into exclusivity and default settings. You know what I mean? But yeah. Okay. So, did I keep reading this? I don't know. But it says the ability to do this is an important aspect of open, honest communication, a value that is critical to a healthy culture and can often get overlooked. Talking about our problems is just as important, if not more so, than celebrating our successes. Teams can learn more from fixing a problem than they can from a total success. Wait, I don't remember if I read other companies may use a different term than code yellow. Did I? I thought I did. Hmm. Ah, accidentally clicking away on things. Didn't mean to do that. That's unfortunate for me. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. I was just seeing if I read that shit because I couldn't remember, but I did. My bad. Okay, moving on. It says this is not a failure. The first step in starting a code yellow is to understand that this is not a failure. There is no shame in admitting that the team has a problem that needs to be fixed. Bugs happen, despite our best efforts to avoid them. The only thing we can do is diagnose the problem and remediate it. The only time we fail is when we turn, I don't like this right here, this is ableism, where it says when we turn a blind eye to these problems. I'm going to link the ableist language, crash course on ableist language. I think the description's already too full because, so that's going to be put into the comments anytime I have too much shit in description, shit will get moved into the comments. So if you ever see me say something like link description of this video, check the comments if it's not in the description, because sometimes shit will be getting moved there. Yeah, fucking. But yeah, so that crash course on ableist language video is on deaf issues, but really you can apply it to anything in my opinion, and you get the fucking point. So yeah, but anyway, this applies to how our engineering teams interact with each other just as much as it does to the software and systems we produce and run. It is critical, however, that the right problems are addressed. Most of the time, we've gotten into the current situation because of a slow boil, increasing technical debt, many small issues or breakdowns in a process that eventually built up into a crisis. The goal of the code yellow must be to not only remediate the current problems, a reactive component, but also to make sure that they are not repeated in the future, the proactive component. Planning for a successful code yellow. There are several components required for a successful code yellow, as well as necessary pieces to get buy-in from the rest of the organization. Problem statement. There must be a clear and agreed upon statement of the problems facing the team that prompted the code yellow. This should include not only what the current problems are, but also what the current understanding of their root cause is. Exit criteria. Next, you have to have specific goals that the team will work toward to exit the code yellow. These should be traditional SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. These goals are what make it possible for the team to enter a code yellow in the first place, as it covers a fixed scope and is not open-ended. Communication. All information about the code yellow, including the announcement, which includes the problem statement and exit criteria. The successful conclusion and periodic status updates should be sent to the larger organization. This may be your department, or it may be the entire engineering organization. It may even be the entire company, depending on the nature of the problems. Project management. Like all large projects, there needs to be someone responsible for organizing the work and communicating information. As this represents an all-hands-on-deck scenario for the impacted team, it is usually helpful to have a dedicated project manager to help with this. This is typically a project manager who is knowledgeable about the team and the work, but not directly involved in the execution. This frees up the managers and individuals contributors, and individual contributors to focus on the work at hand. Once each of these aspects have been thought about and the decision has been made to enter code yellow, the team's first act is to reorganize their priorities around the exit criteria. This often means putting quarterly goals on the shelf. It may also be necessary to establish a dedicated meeting around discussing the status of the exit criteria. Space to breathe. It is all well and good for a team to enter code yellow and work with a single focus on the goals that have been set to make things right, but this is not enough for the team to succeed. For true success, everyone surrounding the team must understand the situation and give them the space to do their work. This is the place where a healthy engineering culture rises to meet the challenge. Expect delays. The most common way that a tangential team will be affected is through delays. They must expect that any request that has been made of the impacted team may be delayed if they are not within the scope of the exit criteria. The code yellow involves, at its core, a reordering of priorities to address the stated problem. Outside teams need to factor this in and understand that their own project timelines may need to be adjusted. Minimize new requests. Other teams should also refrain from asking the impacted team for new things that are outside the scope of the defined exit criteria. Minimizing these requests, in addition to accepting delays on any existing requests, allows the impacted team to spend their limited engineering hours on getting to the other side of the code yellow. Requests for assistance from other teams. The team in code yellow may find they need outside help to reach their goals. For example, if there is sudden explosive growth in traffic, they may need to accelerate the provisioning of new hardware. Finding yourself on the receiving end of a request such as this may require shifting your own priorities. Always remember that the team is all part of the same company, and as such, everyone succeeds or fails together. I should give you a mouse. Engineering teams rarely stand alone, and it is important that everyone understand the value in having those teams working well and working together well. A little temporary delay in goals to assure that this is the case is well worth it. Light at the end of the tunnel. Code yellow represents a significant amount of high priority work, and working through it will often be stressful for the team. Saying no to coworkers that are making a reasonable request is hard, and the work that is in scope rarely involves spending time on interesting new features. In addition, if the problems being addressed include communication issues between groups, there are going to be some difficult conversations that need to happen. However, as the team approaches the end of the work, it will be much easier to see through to what lies on the other side of the exit criteria. The ultimate goal of the Code Yellow is to get the team out of a reactive mode where they are running from crisis to crisis and into a proactive state where they are able to work on the right big projects. Achieving the exit criteria will mean the engineers are more effective and able to work proactively. This is a stronger team. Engineers are happier because they're not under a heavy stress of operations work. The team is working well because they're talking to each other effectively. And customers are pleased because requests are handled either through automation or in a reasonable amount of time. Um, so maybe they're saying that's the end result of if they slow down, take some time to fix their fucking shit, then they can do better. It's kind of like if your shoe's untied and you're tripping on it, then you stop, you tie your shoe, and now you can work just fine. Then I get that, but the way they make it sound, they're like, yeah, so we're just going to hold off everything else you're supposed to be doing, put a shit ton more work on your plate to do that instead, do that other shit later, so you still gotta get that shit done, and fucking smile, keep smiling. I don't know, it just feels a little weird. uh and then they're like, expect everybody to wait for shit, but anyway, this is all gonna get everything done faster. I'm like, what? But hey, I think, like, where I'm making fun of it, those are valid critiques for how it can go wrong with the wrong people involved. But I do think, like, with the right people involved, what they're saying could work. You know what I mean? Like, I think it is a optional strategy. With the right team could be a good one. With the wrong team would be a horrible one. You know what I mean? Those are my thoughts. So next up, we got an article here from Yahoo Finance. And it seems, I think this might be a Bloomberg repost. It says Google's 2019 Code Yellow blurred lines between search ads. And this is from Davey Alba and Leah Nyland. And it's from October 2023. And it is from Bloomberg. Let's zoom in here. So it says the former head of search at Alphabet Inc.'s Google told colleagues in February 2019 that his team was getting too involved with ads for the good of the product and company, according to emails shown at the Justice Department's landmark antitrust trial against the search giant. Google maintains a firewall between its ads and search teams so that its engineers can innovate on Google's search engine unsullied by the influence of the team whose goal is to maximize advertising revenue. But in February 2019, testimony at the antitrust trial revealed Tuesday Google internally declared a code yellow amid concerns the company might not meet its goals for search revenue for the quarter. As part of the emergency, which lasted for 7 weeks, engineers from Google's search and Chrome browser teams were reassigned to figure out why user queries had slowed, according to the documents. So they're saying they try to have a separation between the search and the ads team, but during this 2019 Code Yellow, there is documentation of commingling in the project here under the Code Yellow umbrella, is what I think they're saying. Okay. And then it says Ben Gomez, Google's former head of search, was called by the company in its defense to show that it had made various advancements in search, particularly in mobile. However, cross-examination by Justice Department lawyer David Dahlquist, sorry if I said that wrong, revealed the tensions between Gomez's search team and its advertising counterparts. The questioning sought to undermine Google's contentions that its search team focuses solely on improving the user experience and has sometimes been pulled into the advertising side, where the Justice Department alleges Google has been able to raise prices without pushback. And we have looked at where Google discussed in their own um, documentation doing things such as price tuning. And they were also in their this documentation about how to um, word the automation and the bidding to advertisers. They were discussing how they need to not piss advertisers off, basically, in my opinion, with with the way that they were trying to make more money off of them, in my opinion, is kind of what I got from some of the stuff that they were saying. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of like my interpretation and projection of reality. You know what I mean? But yeah. So yeah. Um. Fucking. Did I read? I think I did just read the part where we just left off here. The Justice Department alleges Google has been able to raise prices without pushback. And then it says the trial, now in its 8th week, focuses on whether Google has illegally maintained its monopoly by spending billions of dollars to stifle competition and preserve its monopoly over online search. Earlier, Google Google's Pichai refutes Department of Justice allegations of deleting evidence. In a statement, Google pushed back on the idea that search results and innovation were affected by the company's ad revenue goals. The organic results you see in search are not affected by our ad systems or the ads we show for a query, said Peter Schottenfield, a Google spokesperson. Let's come back here. So this just had one line. I thought they were going to keep discussing this statement here, so that's why I kept reading. But I want to address this. There is documentation provided by the Department of Justice from the internal email communications where they discuss that they need to switch their chats to turn the history off to make sure that nothing was preserved that could come back on them, essentially. They basically did say that, in my opinion, and the Department of Justice proved it, in my opinion, in the trial exhibits, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, fucking, if I interpret that correctly, I'm not an attorney. You know what I mean? So I think that's wild. You know, like, and then yeah, but anyway, so and then it says Google argues that it has captured about 90% of the market for search on the merits of a superior product, and that its advancements in internet search have benefited the public. But emails revealed in court on Tuesday show that there was some concern among key members of the company's search team that Google was focused on growth over innovation. In a 2019 email, Gomez wrote to other executives that his search team was getting too close to the money. Emails as evidence. I think it is good for us to aspire to query growth and to aspire to more users, but I think we are getting too involved with ads for the good of the product and company, Gomez wrote. I am getting concerned that growth is all we are thinking about, he ended the email. Query growth is measured by looking at the number of user queries, which the Justice Department argued can translate to increased revenue, since greater queries provide more opportunities for Google to run search ads against them. Gomez testified in court that he was feeling frustrated and sent the email at 6 a.m. At the time, Google set its metrics on the number of user queries, which Gomez said he believed wasn't a good one since product improvements should help users find answers quickly. I did not care for queries as a metric, he said. I think this metric of just using queries is not one that optimizes appropriately. Google ended the code yellow emergency in mid-March. Prabhakar Raghavan, I'm so sorry if I said that wrong, then head of Google's advertising, wrote to Gomez at the time, praising the heroic engineering that resolved the issue. Back then, Gomez and Raghavan were of equal rank, both reporting to Google Chief Executive Officer Sundar Pichai. And then regarding query softness, it says, the core query softness continues without mitigation, Raghavan said, asking Gomez for a meeting. At this rate, the full year plan is a bad mess and will need drastic steps on the query side. Gomez drafted a response to Raghavan that he shared with other executives, acknowledging feeling annoyed both personally and on behalf of the team. Most headcount, non-assistant for search, has gone into projects that are growth-oriented. To the point I worry that we are really not investing in research or speculation adequately, Gomez wrote. We could increase queries quite easily in the short term in user-negative ways. Turn off spell correction, turn off ranking improvement, place refinements all over the page. Gomez said in his testimony Tuesday that he believed Raghavan was implying his team hadn't done enough, but he said they would never have taken steps that would negatively impact users. I was discussing things we would never do, like turn off spell correction, he said. In my opinion, didn't okay, maybe I read that wrong, but I feel like I read a document where they literally did say that if they do that, it would make them more money because people would see more ads. Um, and then it says Gomez said he never sent the email to Ragavan, using the draft he shared to get the annoyance off my chest. Gomez and Ragavan met and agreed to stop using queries as a metric, instead creating a new metric that measures groups of queries. Gomez left his position as head of search about a year later. Raghavan has now replaced him as Google's head of both search and advertising. Okie dokie, and that's the end of this article. Alrighty, next up, and this is our last source here on Code Yellow. This is about Google's Code Yellow crisis, impact and innovation. And it's written by Abby Miller from November 2023, and this is from the Digital Marketing News. So let's zoom in here. It says the Code Yellow situation and its implications. In February 2019, Google faced a significant challenge when the company experienced a decline in user queries, sparking concern among its leadership. This alarming situation prompted Google to announce a Code Yellow to address the matter immediately. Ben Gomez, who was the head of Google Search at the time, felt increasingly uneasy about the potentially diminishing barrier between the search and ads divisions. This potential weakening barrier could have serious consequences on the objectivity and quality of search results users would receive. Evaluating strategies and ensuring distinction between divisions. In response to the Code Yellow announcement, Google started an evaluation of its strategies and implemented measures to ensure the distinction between the search and ads divisions. The company wanted to make sure it maintained user trust and satisfaction. Gomez was concerned that the search team might be prioritizing monetization and growth exclusively. This information only became public knowledge due to the revelation of emails during an ongoing antitrust lawsuit. Emails and their impact on user experience and privacy. The disclosed emails provided an inside look at the company's priorities, causing some to question Google's commitment to user experience and privacy. As the antitrust lawsuit progresses, more evidence may come to light, further scrutinizing the delicate balance between the necessity for growth and the preservation of user trust. During the 7 weeks of the Code Yellow crisis, Gomez observed that several discussions about potential actions took place, but most of these actions were not implemented, causing widespread frustration among those who desired a quick and conclusive solution to the problem. Consequently, the effectiveness of the decision-making process was put into question, raising concerns about the appropriate course of action during future crises. Addressing the issue with a new metric, Group Query Assessment. To address the decline in user queries, Google introduced a new metric called the Group Query Assessment. This new metric aims to collect similar queries from different users and evaluate the quality of search results collectively. The Group Query Assessment not only enables Google to identify and resolve any issues within the search engine's algorithms more efficiently, but also greatly enhances user experience. Leadership change and a renewed focus on innovation. Approximately a year after the Code Yellow event, Ben Gomez stepped down as the head of Google Search. Under new leadership, Google Search focused on rebuilding its reputation and enhancing user experience by implementing innovative features. This fundamental change in direction, combined with improved policies and transparency measures, led to a remarkable increase in user satisfaction and confidence in the platform. Appointment of Prabhakar Raghavan as the new head. I'm so sorry, I feel like I'm not saying this right. Prabhakar Raghavan assumed the role as the new head of Google Search. Raghavan's extensive experience and knowledge in the field would undoubtedly play a vital role in the growth and development of the department. His appointment has been met with widespread support and optimism from both colleagues and staff members alike, signifying the beginning of a new era for Google Search. Frequently asked questions. What was the code yellow situation? In February 2019, Google faced a concerning decline in user queries, prompting the company to declare a code yellow and take immediate action to address the issue. The event raised concerns about the potentially diminishing barrier between the search and ads divisions, which could impact the quality and objectivity of search results. What did Google do in response to the code yellow situation? Google began evaluating its strategies and implemented measures to ensure the distinction between the search and ads divisions. The company aimed to maintain user trust and satisfaction by addressing any potential issues, such as prioritizing monetization and growth over user experience. Why did the disclosed emails during the antitrust lawsuit affect Google's reputation? The disclosed emails provided an inside look at the company's priorities, causing some to question Google's commitment to user experience and privacy. This information sparked a debate about the delicate balance between growth and the preservation of user trust, as well as the effectiveness of Google's decision-making process during crisis. What is group query assessment and how did it help Google? Group query assessment is a new metric introduced by Google to address the decline in user queries. It collects similar queries from different users and evaluates the quality of search results collectively. This metric allows Google to quickly identify and resolve issues within its algorithms and greatly enhances user experience. How did Google's leadership change affect the company's direction? Approximately 1 year after the Code Yellow situation, Ben Gomez stepped down as the head of Google Search. Under new leadership, the company focused on rebuilding its reputation, enhancing user experience, and implementing innovative features. These changes, combined with improved policies and transparency measures, led to a notable increase in user satisfaction and confidence in the platform. So not to take away from what the new dude is doing, like I'm sure he's just doing his fucking job, just working, and like he's just like, look, man, this shit just landed in my lap. I'm just fucking here. It's probably like where he's at. But the way that other people are presenting this, I think it's interesting where the one that sounded the alarm, like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with the connection between the search and the ads and how it's getting too tied together here, he's the one that got let go, and then that role, the where he was worried about the division, that became one role for one person. And then they're saying, but yeah, since we so now we have this one guy who I know they're basically like, look, I know you guys were worried about the keeping search and ads divided, and the guy that sounded that alarm is no longer here now. So we've assigned the one role to one person for search and ads growth now. But don't worry, best believe we are totally separating search and ads. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense to anybody else? Is it just me? Okay. And then it says, who was appointed as the new head of Google Search? Prabhakar Raghavan, I'm so sorry if I said that wrong, was appointed as the new head of Google Search. His extensive experience and knowledge in the field were expected to play a significant role in the growth and development of the department. His appointment was met with widespread support and optimism from colleagues and staff members, signifying a new era for Google Search. So yeah, next up, let's check out Code Red Google meeting. And as you know, I have mixed feelings about the AI overview, but we're not going to keep harping on that. Let's just see what this bitch says. So the AI overview tells us a code red at Google signifies a major crisis or emergency situation within the company, essentially meaning all hands on deck, where everyone needs to immediately focus on resolving a critical issue. It's used to indicate a high priority situation requiring immediate action, like when a competitor releases a disruptive technology and Google needs to rapidly respond with their own solution. Key points about Code Red at Google. Recent example. When ChatGPT, an AI chatbot, gained significant popularity, Google reportedly declared a code red to accelerate their own AI development efforts in response to this perceived threat to their search engine dominance. I love how the AI overview is telling us, yeah, I'm here because Google felt threatened. I'm just kidding. But anyway, and then it says meaning. Similar to other emergency codes, Code Red indicates a serious situation requiring immediate attention and coordinated response from all relevant teams. Internal usage. This phrase is primarily used within Google to communicate the severity of a situation to employees. Anyway, then I wanted to see this Reddit thread because a lot of the documentation and shit that we've been reading so far is from the professional publications that are filtered and stuff like that. And to a certain point, I think there's a space where we need that in a certain degree because certain people don't need to be putting their fucking input on certain situations like goddamn. But on another level, um, I wanted to look at this Reddit thread just to kind of see the general perception on this because everything we've been looking at is from the more of a professional standpoint regarding news reporting coverage or legal documentation coverage, and extremely technical and extremely legal. You know what I mean? So from this Reddit thread, I'm hoping we can get like a more general take on the situation. Try zooming in here a little bit. So this Reddit thread is in the subreddit for technology. It's from 2 years ago, so from 2022. And it says Google's management has reportedly issued a code red amid the rising popularity of ChatGPT AI. Um, and then it links to a Business Insider article, but I think this is behind a paywall. So this is behind a paywall, so we're not going to read that. But yeah, so people are saying, I hope they release something to compete instead of just buying it out like they always do, is what one person said. And someone else said they already have something that competes, but are not releasing it for other reasons. And they kind of have now. So people are debating on what's going to come out or not. And then it says Microsoft is not selling OpenAI. They got a great deal. Okay. Um, and then someone else said in 2025, everyone will be using Bing or ChatGPT to search or answer questions. You know what, though? I think he called it. Because, I mean, not everyone. I mean, already a lot of people use ChatGPT. But depending on what happens with the Monopoly case, a lot more people could be using Bing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that person, they did have their finger on the pulse there. You know what I mean? They weren't far off, in my opinion. Fucking, well, potentially, actually, I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen next year? But I mean, I feel like they're possibly not far off. Because for them to have predicted that 2 years ago, but I mean, I know the Monopoly case is in the works then, but like they hadn't been found guilty of it then. Like they've officially been found guilty now. You know? I don't know. And someone said I don't trust AI to accurately answer questions. Um, I think it's interesting people don't trust AI to answer questions anymore. But I mean, honestly, I think there's a lot of issues with AI and stuff to be. leery of, but I don't think that AI is going to be better or worse at answering questions on theory than like any other method we have based on machine learning or algorithms, for example. But I think it's about how it's set up. And so because it's new, we haven't worked out the kinks yet. So there's going to be a big rough patch with AI before it becomes better usable. That's not right, but you know what I mean? Um, but yeah. And so someone else said about this, they either release, buy, or die. AI assisted search makes their whole model dead, especially with half the internet being inside of app spaces. What's exactly left for Google to search? All the fake clickbait sites and ad slam walls? That's what one person said. Someone else said, oh no, I guess 20 years of having a ton of engineers and groups whose projects will just get canceled even before release, according to a lot of folks here, isn't a good business model. They always thought they'd have a monopoly on search, therefore ads, and now look. Someone said, as someone who works on IT, um, as long as I have my paycheck and my personal life is okay, then I don't give a cucumber if something gets released or if I work on a new project. Paycheck pays the bills, not my ego or grandeur career desires. And then someone else said, I felt that way for a decade or so. At my last job before I started working for myself, I had a nice office overlooking a golf course. The highest salary I've ever gotten, I had about 10 hours of real work to do each week. But it was destroying my will to live. What we were working on was always just a step above a rigged demo. And it was never going to be a real product with any real value. I hit my early 30s and decided I just couldn't do that with my life. I do miss the paycheck, but I don't miss pissing my life away on pointless work that didn't mean anything. Someone else said, I volunteer as sacrifice. What was your title and how did you get the job? And he said, I think my title there was programmer analyst. Without going into specifics, it was a small government contractor that I'd worked for 2 times previously. Under some other contract, they developed a piece of software that would be considered machine learning, but not the direction modern machine learning has gone, as far as I'm aware. Lots of statistics under the hood. Someone was convinced that we could repurpose it to fit an entirely different domain. The one math guru behind the algorithms was semi-retired and lived thousands of miles away, and I never met the guy. The team we had was absolutely not equipped to even properly gauge if our stuff was working in a statistically, can't say that, significant way, but they kept it going for years, getting one grant after another. Before that job, I ran an obscure scheduling and planning system used by the government. It was slated to be replaced by a new system developed by a huge defense contractor. I kept my scrappy, underfunded system running on a shoestring and kept it improving it for the users. Running on a shoestring means budget, so basically, like, he had very little money. And the users loved me, but the bosses never understood what I did and constantly eroded my ability to do my job there because they believed a replacement was coming any day. And they were probably getting political pressure because a huge contractor was having way more trouble getting the customers to sign off on their replacement, which was a pile of garbage with a bunch of ugly workarounds because they couldn't match what I was doing. Um, so yeah, I think this is just important to consider of like, looking at how other people in the business and how people in this field think can kind of give you a glimpse into the direction of not only where the case may go, but what might be the impacts of this case, what might happen next. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, fucking and someone else said, oh no, more people will realize Google sucks and there is room for a new search engine. Someone else said, remember the fight that Google had with news publishers over allegedly stealing website traffic from them by showing short snippets that were good enough for many people who then didn't click through to the whole story? Imagine something like that multiplied by 100. That's probably what will happen with chatbots replacing or augmenting search. In the last 2 years, it hasn't really gone that far because chatbots has been better to it's chatbots need more prompts to understand what information you want to see typically. So you have to be very good at giving chatbots the correct prompts to give you that correct information to sift through. You know what I'm saying? Um, at this point in time with where we're at with them, in my opinion. But like if they got even better to where like the connection between the query and the end result was even had even more syntax, then that would be then I do see that they're right, but I just think that that would take a bit longer. Like I'd be real surprised if that happened fast. But anyway, someone else said that sounds fucking excellent. Tons of the shitty journalism will go bankrupt, and only institutions like Wikipedia and other crowdsourced ones will survive. Being unable to search engine optimize your way into it will clean the internet. I think that depends. So SEO, I can see why it's been given a bad name because of, and we've covered people who are shady with SEO and will do scammy, spammy things and call it SEO, and that is what a lot of people know is they think SEO just means getting found online and doing whatever you have to do to get found online. Um, and so to a point, I can agree. Like, for example, keyword stuffing used to be real common, or used to be real common, or people would just type the same word over and over and over again on the page and then just make it the same color as the background, you know, or something like that. Like, but quality content, in my opinion, will always outperform shitty content whenever you've got people using it in a value aligned way, and they know who the audience they want to reach is. You know what I mean? But yeah, fucking someone else said actually the opposite. Politically motivated media will stay because they are funded by organizations with an agenda instead of ads and clicks. Unbiased media that doesn't accept bribes from shady organizations will suffer because their only source of income will be gone. If we want good journalism, we need ad revenue or subscription to their paywalls. Politically motivated shady journalism will survive by outside funding. If both Fox News and Reuters stop receiving ad revenue, which one do you think will receive millions in secret from Russia and China? Is what one person said. I'm not even going to marinate on that. Like, this sounds like they've probably been watching Fox News, but you know what? Let's not marinate that. Okay, because that sounds like a more conservative talking point in my opinion. But yeah, all right. So y'all get the fucking point. Oh, so someone right here. You know what? Okay. Hmm. I thought BERT was a ranking algorithm. You know what? I'm not gonna marinate. I don't know enough about technology to comment on that. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. So that was our Reddit thread. Next up, we've got from Forbes here a little article. It's called "How ChatGPT Suddenly Became Google's Code Red, Prompting Return of Page and Brin." I don't know what the fuck Brin is. Okay, or are those people? Anyway, so this is from David Felon. I don't know how to say this. David Felon, senior contributor from Forbes. This is written January 2023. And it says, oh, Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Okay. So it says Larry Page and Sergey Brin are Google's founders, but both have left their day-to-day roles at the company until current CEO Sundar Pichai declared a code red over the threat to the company from a chatbot, ChatGPT. According to the New York Times, the situation caused by the stellar rise of ChatGPT, only released at the end of November last year, was deemed a potential threat to Google as it looked as if it could offer a new way to search for information on the internet. This, obviously, would be a serious threat to Google. As the New York Times also reported, for Google, this was akin to pulling the fire alarm. Some fear the company may be approaching a moment that the biggest Silicon Valley outfits dread, the arrival of an enormous technological change that could upend the business. So Pichai declared the situation code red, calling in Page and Brin, who had several meetings with executives, making the need to address Google's own artificial intelligence capabilities a priority. This also means that Google now intends to unveil more than 20 new products and demonstrate a version of its search engine with chatbot features this year, the New York Times believes. The importance of AI has long been known to Google, which brought DeepMind, a UK-based AI research lab, almost 9 years ago. It also has a series of AI programs it's planning to launch, including image creation and something that can build and correct code in app development, apparently. But it's the sudden meteoric success of ChatGPT which has changed everything, it seems. It has a rival program which is called LAMDA, I'm not going to say this, short for Language Model for dialogue applications. That's already pretty advanced, with one Google engineer describing it as sentient last summer. That wasn't the case, and Blake Lemoine no longer works at Google. Wait, what? He was responding to how advanced the chatbot had become. I don't understand this. So they're saying that they had an they have a rival application to ChatGPT is what they were saying. That's pretty advanced. And then they said it was described as sentient, but then they said that wasn't the case. So I don't know what the fuck they meant by that, but okay, whatever. Uh, Maybe they just meant maybe he had said it was sentient and then they're saying it's not sentient. So who knows if it was sentient or not. But maybe he just meant like how good it could respond. I don't know. So next up here from the Search Engine Roundtable, we have an article called Google's Code Red by Barry Schwartz from November 2012. Oh wow. Yeah, this is like 12 years ago. So Google's Code Red from 12 years ago. Um, and this is just a quick little post here, but it says Richard Hay shared another nice insider Google tidbit through his pictures on Google Plus. Yeah, back when Google Plus was still a thing. Um, if I click this link, does it even go anywhere? Yeah, nope. When there is a major issue at Google, Google will call a code red. When you hear that at Google, it means all hands on deck, according to Richard. He goes on to explain that there's also a code yellow, which means it is okay to go home and sleep and stuff, but it is still a serious situation. So did they not go home and sleep during a code red? Like, what the fuck? Said Richard. The image has a shirt that says code red, but in the plaque below it reads, in case of emergency, break glass. Okay, damn. They've got Richard Hay right here. It says, clearly that is me taking the picture. He commented. And then, oh, okay. He said that because someone said, I wonder whose self-portrait is in the lower left corner. Richard Hayes said, clearly that is me. And then someone said, when Google goes sentient, all Skynet-style Matt Cutts will break this glass with his porn cookie jar and be seen later wearing the shirt savaging puppies. That's kind of funny. But also kind of weird. What the fuck do you mean savaging puppies? You know what? I'm not going to think about that. Okay. And then after that, we got an article here from India Today. This is called Sundar Pichai issued a code red in Google after sudden popularity of AI. And it seems to have been written by Divya Bhatti. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. It's from April 2024. And it's got a little heading here that says the swift rise of AI has caught tech giants like Google off guard, prompting CEO Sundar Pichai to issue a code red in the company. However, despite some initial setbacks, Pichai remains confident in Google's AI strategy and foresees significant advancements in the near future. And then it says, in short, Google CEO Sundar Pichai issued a code red in response to the sudden popularity of ChatGPT. Pichai even brought back the company's co-founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, to help steer product efforts. Google's approach to the AI boom has been multifaceted. The rapid rise of generative AI in the last few years has taken the tech world by storm, and even tech giant Google was caught off guard by its sudden popularity. Google CEO Sundar Pichai recently admitted that while he had recognized the significance and rise of AI years ago, he was surprised by the swift public interest and adoption of the technology. The launch of OpenAI's generative AI chatbot, ChatGPT, in 2022 came as a big shocker in Silicon Valley, and Google was no exception. In response to ChatGPT's popularity, Pichai reportedly issued a code red within the company. During a speech at an event at Stanford University, Pichai revealed that while he envisioned AI as a significant part of the future and society adopting artificial intelligence and tech, he had a different sense of the trajectory in mind and was surprised by the sudden popularity of ChatGPT. In response, he issued an emergency in Google, prompting the company to pour resources into its AI development. This included bringing back the company's co-founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, to help steer product efforts. Google's approach to the AI boom has been multifaceted. The company has released its own AI products and combined its AI teams, merging Google Brain and DeepMind into one unified team called Google DeepMind. Despite these efforts, Google has faced challenges in controlling the narrative around AI. And I think it's wild when you talk about how a search engine can't control a narrative when they've been found guilty for monopolizing search, where they do control the narrative. You know what I'm saying? So that's like, But anyway, so then it says the company experienced two significant setbacks in its AI journey. First, its chatbot Bard made a mistake during a demo, drawing criticism from users and industry experts alike. Then, its Gemini AI model failed to generate historically accurate images, sparking backlash and raising concerns about the model's reliability and bias. Pichai acknowledged these issues and admitted that the company had got it wrong with Gemini. He expressed regret that some of the model's responses had offended users and displayed bias. Nevertheless, he remains confident about Google's position in the AI landscape. But despite the setbacks, Pichai is confident in Google's long-term AI strategy. Pichai believes the company is incredibly well positioned for what is coming, highlighting the early-stage nature of AI. Meanwhile, focusing Google's AI what am I saying focusing? Meanwhile, following Google's AI plan, the company is expected to showcase its latest AI advancements at its annual developer conference next month. The company is expected to announce new AI features across its products, apps, and services. This includes potential AI enhancements for its Pixel devices and the possibility of Gemini AI replacing Google Assistant. However, Google's focus on AI extends beyond its own ecosystem. Google's Gemini AI also powers Samsung Galaxy AI, and there are rumors that it may be the foundation for generative AI features on iOS devices, possibly in iOS 18. So yeah, and then our last little article here on Code Red, figure why the fuck not, let's keep doing it, one more. So this is from CNET, I don't know what the fuck CNET means, but okie dokie. It was written by Ahmad Khan. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. It's from July 2024, and it's titled ChatGPT caused code red at Google, report says. And then it says ChatGPT can deliver direct answers quickly, not pages of endless links. That's reportedly scaring Google. After that, it says ChatGPT, an AI chatbot developed by OpenAI that went viral because it can give people direct answers to just about any query possible, apparently has alarm bells ringing at Google, according to a report by the New York Times Wednesday. A Google executive the Times spoke to but didn't name said AI chatbots like ChatGPT could upend the search giant's business, which relies heavily on ads and e-commerce found in Google search. In a memo and audio recording obtained by the Times, the publication says CEO Sundar Pichai has been in meetings to define Google's AI strategy and has upended the work of numerous groups inside the company to respond to the threat that ChatGPT poses. Google didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. ChatGPT is an AI chatbot that uses available data found online to give users conversational answers to a host of questions. Unlike Google Search, which scrubs the internet for potential answers and gives people links that they themselves must read through, ChatGPT delivers unique and novel answers never written by humans before. For example, a person can ask ChatGPT to write a haiku about Pikachu eating spam musubi, and ChatGPT will produce a convincing answer. Pikachu munches, spam musubi disappears, delicious treats gone. I am getting a call. We are going to go on break. I will be right back.
like your life's not real, as if you're not you, just a cloud floating through. Do you ever think you might be on the brink, standing on a cliff, carried by the next drill? A song is gonna come your way, a tune or two that you can play. A light's gonna shine your way, an hour or two will let you stay. Pray, pray, pray. Do you ever love someone who's not enough, who makes you feel less, doesn't wish you the best? Do you ever say what's not meant to be, and just think the stars, you're not behind those bars? A song is gonna come your way, a tune or two that you can play. A light's gonna shine your way, an hour or two will let you stay. Pray, pray, pray. And you deserve more. You deserve more. You deserve more. You will find one. A song is gonna come your way, a tune or two that you can play. A light's gonna shine your way, an hour or two will let you stay. Pray, pray, stay free. I used to sing on top of the moon, thought that I should come down soon, on a shooting star, feeling ecstasy, heart melted into the galaxy. I didn't know how to fall. The space consumed me all, while the road slipped from my gaze. I'm sure I'll love you always. I was drinking in a meteor shower, hoping I might see a flower. Deep into a black hole I go, building all the love I've come to know. I didn't know how to fall. The space consumed me all, while the road slipped from my gaze. I'm sure I'll love you always. me, baby, you always go. You think I'm stupid, hey, I know, no. A lonely heartbeat in me, a bottle of wine out there. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. You don't say me, but I say you. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. Go the fuck away, I'll get over you. I know your ways and damn, you're just the same. You had a future and Lord knows it's a shame. Don't even try to apologize now. I know you don't even know how. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. You don't see me, but I see you. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. Go the fuck away, I'll get over you. In the end, where will I be? Got to be a love around me. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. You don't see me, but I see through you. You can leave me, baby, oh please do. Go the fuck away, I'll get over you.
Sorry about that. I had a fucking phone call I had to go take. Um, had to deal with some stuff. But fucking yeah, so we're gonna keep finishing this article. And then we shall move on with our lecture. But before we do, I just want to remind you guys, you know what I'm saying? If you're thinking about getting a tattoo, you're near Pasadena, Texas, near Houston, Texas, check out Ink by Cass at the V Hole Studio. I don't know. I've been saying in the in the description of the video, these are ads, but I don't know if I've been saying like every time I play these videos, hey, this is a fucking ad. But y'all know it's a fucking ad, right? Like, yeah, okay. Um, anyway, so we were reading this article from CNET about ChatGPT calls co-read at Google that according to the report, we had just left an example where they asked ChatGPT to write a haiku about Pikachu eating spam, and now we're going to keep reading. It says, while Google has been aggressively building its own AI technologies, it's been slow to release them to the public, fearing how it might affect society, according to a memo viewed by the Times. Part of the reason is that answers are based on human-made data currently available online. That means racism, bias, and misinformation can bleed into a chatbot's learning model, giving unsavory answers. It's why Microsoft had to hastily take its AI chatbot offline in 2016, shortly after it was introduced. Facebook parent Meta also has introduced a chatbot, but it quickly began giving racist answers. For the moment, Google continues to rely on its search business, which makes money through ads and e-commerce sales, and accounted for nearly 80% of its revenue last quarter. Since chatbots aim to give answers in natural language, it may be harder to integrate ads. Not only that, the processing required to deliver believable answers by scrubbing immensely large pools of data can get expensive. One estimate has OpenAI spending $3 million per month, and that's with ChatGPT still currently in beta, requiring people make an account and still with it occasionally going offline due to high load. Still, if chatbots built on large language models like Google's own LaMDA gain in popularity, not only could it kill the college essay or be great for college essays, it could also kill Google's main moneymaker. Okay, and then it continues with other articles here. And so yeah, fucking where it talks about this concept of, I think it's of if it's gonna kill the college essay. No, because people already have, it's just if people are gonna fake, that's just another avenue for sure, I guess. Maybe, you could argue in that degree maybe, but in terms of like, if someone's gonna cheat or not, they're already gonna cheat or not, you know what I mean? It's about the mindset. Like, people have to be able to write themselves and present themselves in their own information. There's always settings at the end of the day in the workflow. You don't always aren't always able to rely on the internet. At the end of the day, you got to be able to present and write yourself. And so if you can't produce on that, it will come out eventually. You know what I mean? And so, like, I don't know. I don't really foresee that as too much of a threat in relation because of that. But yeah, so fucking next up, what I would like to do is check out Lecture 7, How to Build Products Users Love. And this is from Kevin Hale, and I want to do a little reaction to this. I'm going to put this on 2x speed here. I got captions on. Hopefully it's working for us. So yeah, we're going to do a reaction to this bitch. Check that out. And we'll wrap up after that.
All right, so when I talk about making products users love, what I mean specifically is like how do we make things that has a passionate user base that our users are unconditionally wanting it to be successful, both on the products that we build, but also the companies behind them. We're going to go over tons of information. Try not to take too many notes, mostly just try to listen. I'll post a link to the slides on my Twitter account, and on that link, there'll be ways for you to annotate the slides, and you can ask me questions, and so if we don't get to them, I'll answer them after the talk. So you guys have been listening to and hearing a lot about growth over the last several weeks, and to me, I feel like growth is usually fairly simple. It's the interaction between two sort of concepts of variables, conversion rate and churn, right? And the gap between those two things pretty much indicate how fast you're going to grow. Most people, especially business type people, tend to look at this interaction in terms of a very calculated and mathematical sort of way. And today, I sort of want to talk about these things at a more human scale, right?
And so conversion is how many people are taking action with you, engaging with you, buying from you, or doing whatever action you want them to take. So conversion is how many people are doing business with you, basically, or engaging with you. And then churn, that is how many people stop engaging with you, or stop doing business with you, or leave you. So you're looking at the amount of people that are on board with what you're doing versus the amount of people who are walking away from what you're doing. And that difference is what they're measuring for growth here.
Right? Because at startup, when you're interacting with your users, you have a fairly intimate interaction that you have in the early stages. And so I think there's a different way of looking at this stuff in terms of how we build our products. And we'll look at a lot of different examples of that and how it's executed well. My philosophy behind a lot of things that I teach startups is the best way to get to sort of $1 billion is to focus on the values that help you get that first dollar, to acquire that first user. If you sort of get that right, everything else will sort of take care of itself. The sort of faith thing. So I came to be a partner at YC by way of being an alumni. I went to the program in winter of 2006. It was the second ever program. And I built a product called Wufoo. Wufoo is an online form builder, helps you create contact forms and online surveys and simple payment forms. It's basically a database app that looks like it's designed by Fisher-Price. What's interesting, though, is that because it was fairly easy to use, we had customers from every industry, market, and vertical you can think of, including a majority of the Fortune 500 companies out there. Ran the company for 5 years, and then were acquired by SurveyMonkey in 2013. And at the time, we were a very interesting acquisition. We were only a team of 10 people at the time, and while we acquired funding out here in Silicon Valley through Y Combinator, we actually ran the company from Florida. We had
Okay, so I was wondering at the beginning of this, I was like, I don't know what happened to that, but okay, it got acquired by SurveyMonkey, so we've already seen the answer.
no office. Everyone worked from home, and we're an interesting outlier. So each dot here represents a startup that exited through IPO or acquisition, and we're this outlier to the left. The bottom is the funding amount they took, and the vertical axis is the valuation of the company at the time. To sum it up, the average startup raises about $25 million, and their return to their investors is about 676%. Wufoo raised about $118,000 total, and our return to our investors is about 29,000%. So a lot of people were very interested in sort of like what makes Wufoo a little bit different, or how do we run the company very differently? And a lot of it was focused on product. We weren't interested in building software that, I guess, that just people wanted to use, right? That reminded you that you worked in a cubicle, because it was a database app at its sort of core. We wanted a product that people wanted to love, that people wanted to have a relationship with, and we were actually very fanatical about how we approached this idea at the point where it was almost sort of in a sort of sciencey sort of way. So what we said was like, okay, what's interesting about startups in terms of us wanting to create things that people love is that love and unconditional sort of feelings are things that are difficult for us to do in sort of real life. And at startups, we have to do it sort of at scale. So we decided to start off by just looking at like, okay, how does real relationship work in the real world, and how can we apply them to sort of how we run our business and sort of build our product that way? So we'll go over basically these two metaphors: finding new users as if we're trying to date them, and existing users as if there's a successful marriage. So when it comes to dating, a lot of the stuff that we uncovered had to do with first impressions. All of you often talk about your relationships in terms of the origin story. That's tell me about the first kiss, how you sort of met, how you proposed. These are things that we say over and over and over again. They're basically the word of mouth stories of our relationships. And they're the same kinds of things that we do with companies. Human beings are relationship manufacturing creatures. We cannot help but create and anthropomorphize the things we interact with over and over again. So whether it's the cars we drive, the clothes we wear, the tools and softwares we use, we eventually prescribe characteristics to it, a personality, and we expect it to behave a certain way, and that's how we sort of interact with it. Now, first impressions are important for the starting of any relationship because it's the one we tell over and over again, right? And there's something special about how we regard that origin story. I'll give you an example. If you're on a first date with somebody and you're having a nice dinner and you catch them picking their nose, you are probably not going to have another date with them, right? But if you're married to someone for about 20 to 30 years and you catch them on the parking lot digging for gold, right? You don't immediately call your lawyer, right? And then say, like, we have a problem here, and you start drawing up papers for divorce. You shrug your shoulders and say, at least he has a hard goal. So something about first-time interactions means that the threshold is so much lower in terms of pass-fail. So in software, and for most products and internet software that we use, like first impressions are pretty obvious. And they're the things that you see a lot of companies sort of pay attention to in terms of what they send their marketing people to work on. My argument for people who are very good at product is they discover so many other first moments, and they make those something memorable. Right? The very first email you ever get from a piece of software, what happens when you first log in, the links, the advertising, the very first time you...
You know, with their dating and marriage example, how they were talking about how the bar is so much lower when you're dating and when you're married versus like dating or whatever, based on like whether or not you're willing to leave somebody. I was just thinking people can be very similar that way when how they treat businesses in terms of like if you don't have enough views or if people don't perceive you as successful enough, they're not going to want to work with you. Um, you know what I'm saying? But then it's just kind of like if somebody who is very popular gets caught out for doing very shitty things, such as being extremely racist or sexually assaulting someone, everyone's like, oh, but they're so good at their job. Who cares? You know what I mean? I was just kind of thinking of that in that relation. So I was like, I think that is interesting how that works out. When we start to think about um, how loyal people become to brands, it's interesting to me. Like it's a blessing and a curse for people, you know, because brand loyalty can be a blessing in terms of helping people live their life, but it's a curse in terms of upholding the status quo. You know what I mean?
interact with customer support. All of those are opportunities to seduce. So how did we think about sort of like making first moments on there? And we actually took this concept from the Japanese. They actually have two words for how to describe things when you're finished with them in terms of saying like, is this a quality item? And the two words of quality are Atadame Hinshitsu and Miryuki Hinshitsu. And the first one means taken for granted quality, basically functionality. And the last one sort of means enchanting quality, right? Take for example a pen, right? Something has Miryuki, right? If the weight of the pen, the way the ink flows out of it, the way it's viewed by the people reading the handwriting from the pen is pleasurable both to the user of the pen and the people who sort of experience the byproducts of it, right? Taking it to the sort of next level. Start with some examples. So this is Wufu's login link, and it has a dinosaur on it, which I think is awesome. But if you hover over it, the spec has the added benefit of having a tooltip that doesn't explain you like how to log in and what it does, but basically rawr. And what we noticed about this, like in early usability studies, is like this put a smile on people's faces, like hands down, right, universally. And I think a lot of times when we are assessing products, we never think about like, hey, what is the emotion on the person's face when they interact with this? This is Vimeo's login page. This is actually a couple iterations ago. It's one I find to be the most beautiful, but it lets you know that when you're starting out on this journey with Vimeo, that this is going to be something different. They do this all over the app. If you search for the word fart, as you scroll up and down, it makes fart noises as you do this, right? There's something different. Like this site interacts with you. It's a little bit magical. It's a little bit different. And it's something that you want to talk about. You don't have to always do it with design. This is a sign-up form for Quark, which used to be a social network for people who love to drink wine. On it, it says email address. It's also your sign-up and it has to be legit. First name, what your mom calls you. Last name, what your army buddies call you. Password, something to remember but hard to guess. Password confirmation. Think of it, type it again. Think of it as a test. It's literally a poem as you fill out the form, right? And this is the kind of like thing where you're like, oh, I like the people behind this. I'm going to enjoy this experience. Now, what does it say when you fill out a form like this, right, on Yahoo, about what the personality of the site is going to be? And what's disappointing to me is like Yahoo forces every product and service under them to use this exact same login form. Flickr, I thought had one of the best sort of call to actions. It was get in there, right? This is Heroku's sign-up page. I think this is an older version. But what's remarkable about it is that what you start getting a feel for is like, oh, scaling up my sort of server and backend services is as easy as just sort of dragging up and down different sort of knobs and levers. It's going to be beautiful to use and looks fairly easy to scale. It's a room full of
You know, I do like that where he's going with his idea for how you need to bring growth or build a product that users love is to think about their emotions and think about how they feel when they're doing something with you. I think that is very good for people to think about whenever they're making any decision in terms of testing, particularly A/B testing and optimizing too. In terms of making changes to how are they going to reduce friction and make it easier for people to buy and better reach their target audience. This is what I love and marinating on that. That's like how you take your brand and marketing to that next step, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Computer science people, I think, appreciate this. This is Chocolate. This is a code editor. And they only have one call to action. When the time limit is up, they said everything in terms of all the features are exactly the same, except we changed the font to Comic Sans. And what they're basically saying is like, hey, we know who our users are, who our real customers are, and they're going to be the people who care about this. This is Hurl. This is a website for checking HTTP requests. And sometimes the places where you get errors are opportunities for first moments. If you hit 404, this is what you get. When we need help, oftentimes what we do is we create like really beautiful marketing materials, but when you actually need like documentation, we sort of like skimp out on sort of design features. And this is a point that like you see happen over and over again. A company that gets this right is MailChimp. And what they did was they redesigned all their help guides so that they look like magazine covers. And overnight, basically, readership goes up on all these features, and customer support for these things that sort of help people optimize emails goes down. Speaking of documentation, Stripe what's interesting about an API company is that there is no UX. The UX is actually just documentation, right? And there's opportunities even in documentation sort of to enchant and amaze. So one of the things that I love about them is their examples are wonderful. But if you're actually like sort of logged into the app, one of the things that is a super pain for most people when you're dealing with most people's APIs is like grabbing your API credentials and keys. And what Stripe does is it says, oh, if you're logged into the app, we automatically put your API credentials into the examples. So you only have to copy paste once when trying to learn their API. When we wanted to launch the third version of our API, we realized, like, okay, that finally this is good enough that we want people to sort of build on top of it. We were trying to figure out, like, how do we launch this out to the world that sort of has our personality behind it? Because a lot of people, they usually do things like a programming API contest, and they give out iPads and iPhones, and it makes you look like everyone else. And so in our company, one weird value to have, the quirk of us, is that the co-founders are big medieval nuts, and we would take everyone out to medieval times every single year on the anniversary of the founding of the company. And so we said, we have to do something in that flavor. And so we contacted the guys at armor.com, we said, can you forge us a custom battle axe? And what we said was, if you win our programming contest, you would win one. And the result is, like, people wanted to talk about this. It was something that people wanted to work on because they wanted to be able to say, like, I'm programming for a weapon. And what's cool is we had over 25 different applications created for us of quality and quantity that we could not have paid for on the budget and the time that we had for this. We got things like an iPhone app, an Android app, and WordPress plugin.
There's this lawyer I follow who literally specializes in like weapons. Runkle of the Bailey. Why do I feel like he would enter that fucking contest? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I fucking, it's bothering me I didn't read the slide, so I know it was a minute back, but fuck it, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna just tell you what the slide said about 2 minutes ago, and yeah, we're gonna come right back to this. So before this slide, and y'all might have seen I had paused for a second so the captioner would stop going over it if somebody wanted to read it, but it said how we treat customers before and after they buy our product. Before, and it shows brochure, glossy, slick, colorful, reader-friendly, sexy, compelling. After, and it has a manual, and it says plain, dull, black and white, confusing, dry, and boring. You know what, though? That's so true. I see that. I see what they mean now. Okay, so we left off at 12 minutes and 57 seconds, so we're going to go right back there. And now we're going to keep playing this thing and keep...
Right? And all because what we did was we changed how people want to talk about the origin story of how they're interacting with one of our services. We can go like all day long going over these examples, but we shortcut this by saying you should just subscribe to little big details. It's just basically tons of screenshots of software that's just doing it right, that shows that they're being conscientious of the user and the customers. When it comes to long-term relationships or marriages, the only research that we ended up having to read is the stuff that was done by John Gottman. He's been featured in This American Life and Malcolm Gladwell's books. He's a marriage researcher up in Seattle, and he has an interesting parlor trick that he can do. He can watch a videotape of a couple fighting about some issue for 15 minutes and predict with an 85% accuracy rate whether that couple will be together or not or divorced in 4 years. If he increases that video up to an hour and asks them to also talk about their hopes and dreams, that prediction rating goes up to 94%. They show these same videotapes to marriage counselors, successfully married couples, sociologists, psychiatrists, priests, etc. And they can't predict with random chance whether people are going to be together or not. So John Gottman understands something fundamental about how relationships work in the long term, and that basically how we fight, even in a short-term period, can indicate sort of the whole system and what it's going to look like. And one of the surprising things he discovered is not that successfully married people don't fight at all. Turns out everybody fights. And we all fight about the exact same things: money, kids, sex, time, and others. And others are things like jealousy and the in-laws. To bring this around, right, you can actually attribute every single one of these to problems that you see in customer support when you're building out your products. Right? So this costs too much. I'm having problems with credit card. If you're building a service that helps people deal with their clients, they're very sensitive about anything happening with that. Performance, how long you're up and how fast. Others are, I said, jealousy and in-laws, right? So that's competition and partnerships. Anything weird happening there, people are going to write to you about. And the reason I like to think about this in terms of customer support is that in everyone's sort of processing of like a conversion funnel, customer support is the thing that happens in between every one of these steps. It's the reason why people don't make it further down there. It's the thing that prevents conversion from happening. Now, as we were thinking through all these ideas and as we're building up the company, we realized that there's a big problem about how everyone sort of starts their company or build up their sort of engineering teams. And that is there's a broken feedback loop there. People are divorced from the concept.
So what I really like here though, when we often talk about growth in marketing and business, we're often looking at it as a math formula. We're looking at the analytics and we're looking at, for example, the Common Thread Collective profitability formula is your profits equals your visitors times your conversion rate times your average order value. And they use that formula to then solve and address all of their marketing as a framework because they can look at how much money they're bringing in by how many people, how much traffic, how many people are they getting awareness to. Out of those people that they're getting awareness to, how many of those people are buying? And out of those people who are buying, how much in terms of the amount are they spending with us? You know what I'm saying? And so at each point of those metrics, that's where you can then look at, okay, how can I improve? So if you're not even getting traffic, you have to be getting traffic before you can even worry about if you're converting them. So then once you're getting traffic, then you can say, okay, am I converting the traffic, right? And then once you're getting traffic, they're obviously engaging in the site, so they're clearly interested, but you still need to be making more money. That's where you can work on how can we increase the average order value people spend with us. You know what I'm saying? And so that is the step-by-step kind of flow in which people in business, such as Common Thread Collective via Your Admission Company, was kind of taught in the marketing industry in terms of growing your business and how to fix it. So what I really like about this conversation here, when we compare it to the relationships that we can relate to, is it takes those numbers and we stop looking at the problem of the individuals as a number, and we look at it on an individual case by case basis as a person, putting the humanity back into it. You know what I'm saying? So I do like that aspect of it. I will say though, you do need both in order to cohesively grow. Um, so if someone's just telling you like build relationships without being able to tell you the technology and the formula and the methodology behind to do so, then I would be a little leery in general. But then again, I notice in one lecture, there's only so much you can do from one lecture. But so I will say though, like, but if you're looking for like in marketing agency and you're trying to vet a marketer, like if they're just blowing smoke up your ass without giving you something tangible, then I would run away. But if they're doing both, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Or if they're just more on the technical side, then they're probably gonna be fine too. But you know what I mean? Okay, let's keep.
Consequences of their actions. And this is a result of actually the natural evolution of how most companies get founded, especially by technical co-founders, right? Before launch, it is a time of bliss, nirvana, and opportunity, right? Nothing that you do is wrong, right? By your hand, which you feel is like God, everything that you write, every line of code feels perfect, right? And is a genius to you. The thing that happens is after launch, reality sort of sets in, and then all these other tasks sort of come into place that we have to deal with. And now what technical co-founders want to do is get back to that initial state. And so what we often do and what we often see is that companies start siloing off all these other things that actually is what makes a startup or company sort of real, right? And have other people do them. In our minds, these other tasks are inferior, right? And we have other people in the company do them. And so for us, what we're trying to figure out is how do we change software development so that we inject some values that we don't talk about: responsibility, accountability, humility, modesty, right? And we call this, like a lot of other people, we had an acronym, support-driven development. It's basically very similar to TDD or other agile practice. It's a way of creating high-quality software, but it's super simple. You don't need like a Scrum, you don't need a bunch of Post-it notes. All you have to do is make everyone do customer support. And what you end up having is you fix the feedback loop, right? The people who build the software are the ones supporting it, and you get all these sort of nice benefits as a result. So one of them is support responsible developers and designers. When people build this stuff, they give the very best support. Now, we're not the first person to think of this. Paul English was a big reporter of this at Kayak, and what he did was install a red customer support phone line in the middle of the engineering floor, and it would just ring with customer support calls. And people would ask him oftentimes, why would you pay engineers $120,000 or more to do something that you can pay other people a fraction of? They handle it like a call center. And he says, well, after the second or third time that phone rings and the engineer gets the same problem, they stop what they're doing, they fix the bug, and we stop getting phone calls about it. It's a way of having QA, a sort of nice, elegant solution. Now, John Gottman talks about the reason that we often break up with one another is due to four major causes, and they're warning signs. He calls them 4 horsemen, right? Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. The criticism is basically people starting to focus not just on the specific issue at hand, but on the overarching issues. Like, you never, right, listen to your users, or you never think about us all the time, right? Contempt is when someone is purposely trying to insult somebody. Defensiveness is not trying to take accountability, trying to make excuses for their actions. And stonewalling is basically shutting down. Stonewalling, to John Gottman, is one of the worst things that we can do in a relationship. Hold up. And oftentimes, we don't worry much about this in customer support, criticism, and contempt, right? Defensiveness, you see this all the time in companies, especially as they get older. But stonewalling, this is something I see happen with startups all the time. You get a bunch of customer support stuff coming in, and you just think, I don't need to answer it, I don't need to respond, right? And that act of just not even getting back to them is one of the worst things you can do. And it's probably some of the biggest causes of churn in the early stages of startups. This is how support worked at Wufoo. When we were acquired, we had about 500,000 users on the system. 5 million people used Wufoo forms and reports, whether they knew it or not, and all those people got support from the same 10 people. And usually there was only one person dedicated to support a day or any shift. Resulting in about 400 issues a week. That's about 800 emails. But a response time from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. was between 7 to 12 minutes, right? From 9 p.m. to midnight, it was an hour. And then on the weekend, it would be no longer than 24 hours. And we carried this up all the way up to the scale. What a lot of people forget about and often talk about with Airbnb is how, like, oh, they did this interesting thing where they went up to New York and offered like professional photographers, and the founders would go out there and actually take pictures of the people's apartments, help them sell more, focusing on the stories around conversion. What most people don't realize is a lot of times when I saw Joe in the early days of Airbnb, he had a phone sort of headset stuck to his head all the time because he was doing phone support nonstop. It turns into a story that we don't like to talk about all the time. Airbnb's sort of growth really started picking up once they figured out how to match capacity to the demand or the phone calls they were getting into their support system. At Wufoo, we actually constantly did experiments around support because we were so obsessed with it. One experiment we did was we heard Kathy Sierra do a talk about there's a disconnect between the emotions that we have when we need help and sort of the content and the reactions we get from people when we get help from them, especially online, because they just don't see all those nonverbal cues. So she said, unless there's face recognition on the web, we're just always going to be disconnected from our users. Our feeling was like, well, we're not face recognition experts, but I think there's another way of getting empathy. So as form builders, we added a drop down. And what we said was like, hey, what's your emotional state? And our hypothesis was that no one was going to fill this out. We basically thought, oh, okay, you know what, this is going to be pretty a lame experiment, but we'll see how it sort of goes. And it turned out the emotional state drop-down field was filled out 75.8% of the time. The browser type drop-down field, just in comparison, was filled out 78.1% of the time. Right? So people were basically telling us, for my technical support issue, how I feel about this problem is just as important as like all the technical details you need to sort of figure out how to debug it. Now, we did prioritize things or triage things by emotion, right? And for the most part, people didn't game the system. One of the interesting byproducts of it was that we noticed that people started being nicer to us. And the it was something sort of subconscious. We just were thinking like, oh, our users are so much better now. What's going on? And we went back and looked at the data and we did some text analysis. And what we realized is that, oh, when it comes to only communicating with people over written words like email, there's only 3 ways that you show strong emotions, right? Exclamation marks, curse words, and all caps. And sure enough, on all 3 of those metrics, they've gone down in sort of the way people were talking to us in customer support. Once people had a simple outlet for their emotions, right, people would be a lot more rational and it made our jobs a lot more pleasant as a result. The other byproduct that is awesome is that you actually build better software when you do this. Far better software. This is actually backed up by tons of research. Jared Spool at User Interface Engineering, which is sort of the big players in the space, says like there's a direct correlation to how much time we spend directly exposed to users and how good our designs sort of get. He says.
And so before I was saying, someone is just explaining like emotions without being able to explain the technicalities of it, then I wouldn't trust him. But the way he's only focusing on the emotions, but how he's going so in detail into um, how the emotions impact different stats and why the emotional state is just as relevant in growth as the features and benefits of your offers. The way he's able to articulate the impact of the emotion, that is something I trust. So if they're able to, if they don't focus on the analytics, because that's just not what they do, and this is more of what they do, but they're still able to articulate fully the impact of this, you know what I'm saying, which could then therefore connect it back to those analytics, that is something that I feel like is pretty valid. And even if I don't like Airbnb, which he's using as an example here, fucking because like gentrification, colonialism, what's not to hate, but I do think it's interesting where he's given the example, being on customer service line 24/7, how he was talking about how you always have to be available as a business owner too, because, like even now, I have so many people reach out to me and I'm only one person that the reason I have to make it so I'm like, look, if you're contacting me for business stuff, either email me or hit me up through my site. If you're DMing me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, I'm not even on Twitter anymore, but I used to be, so I think I'm just used to saying it. Um, Wherever, if you're DMing me somewhere, uh, I'll try my best. If I actually see it, then I try my best to follow up, right? As a business way. But I don't always see that shit because I get so many messages from all the platforms, and I don't even have that many followers. I can't even fucking keep up with it all. So it's not that I don't want to be available to people where it's easiest for them, but I literally cannot you know? And so there is that issue too, where there's like it can be hard for people who are in business to actually keep up with the leads we generate and do a good job at servicing everybody because we can't, and then we just feel bad. But yeah, so if you're seeing this and you do want to do business with me and I haven't reached back out to you, it's not that I don't want to work with you. I probably didn't see your shit. Make sure you email me or reach out to me on my site right away. Because I have that happen too, where people be like, I messaged you on Instagram 4 months ago. And I'm like, I have no fucking clue, bitch. Did it say red? Anyway, um, yeah. Alright, so fucking, let's.
It has to come in a specific way. It has to be.
Oh, or also auto response on Instagram at night. If you message me at night, there's like this auto message, and then it doesn't even show me when it sends that auto message. It won't show me that it's a new message, so I don't even see that it's a new message. So if you ever get an auto message from me on Instagram, message me again during the daytime because I probably didn't know you messaged me.
Direct exposure, right? It can't be something where someone generates a report or through a graph. You have to be interacting with them somewhat real time. It has to be a minimum of every 6 weeks. It has to be for at least 2 hours. Otherwise, your software will get worse over time. Our developers, our people who are on Wi-Fi, we're getting exposed to our users 4 to 8 hours every single week. And what it does is it changes the way you sort of build software. Sharespool has another way of talking about how we build products, right? And let's imagine that this.
I like that he's talking about how you need that exposure to your product and your offer to make sure that you are actually using it and shit like that because I find myself like having issues where I don't go on my own website enough to then I go back to it and I'm like, ooh, people been fucked up. They've been having all sorts of issues and I didn't realize, you know. So that is very important to be very aware of your offer. Um,
represents all the knowledge needed to sort of use your app on a spectrum, right? This is like no knowledge, right? This is all the knowledge needed, right? And these two lines are pretty much your interaction with users, what you're trying to get them to. This is currently where their knowledge point is, and this is the target knowledge point that you're trying to get them to understand and use your app. The gap between those is called the knowledge gap, Jared Stoll calls. And what's interesting about this is there's only two ways, right, to sort of fix this. That gap represents how intuitive your app is, right? You either get the user to increase their knowledge, or you decrease the amount of knowledge that's needed to use your application. And oftentimes, as engineers and people who build and work on products, we think, let's add new features. And new features only means let's increase the knowledge gap. So for us, we actually focus a lot on the other sort of direction. And so what that meant is we spent a lot of time, 30% of our engineering time was spent on internal tools to help with the customer support stuff. But oftentimes, it was spent helping people help themselves. Things like frequently asked questions, tool tips, things like if you just click the help link, right? Instead of taking you to the generic help sort of documentation page, you go to the specific page where you're looking at that's going to be most sort of appropriate for what you're working on. We redesigned our documentation over and over again, A/B tested it constantly. One iteration of our documentation reduced customer support by 30% overnight. It's one of those things where like overnight, all the people that work on the product immediately had 30% less work to do. Now what happens if you have everyone work on customer support constantly, thinking about it in terms of a remarkable way? Well, I talked a lot about in the very beginning, growth is a function of conversion and churn. This is Woofy's growth curve for the first 5 years, right? What's interesting is we paid no money on advertising, on marketing. All of it was done by word of mouth growth, right? And the interaction between like new users and downgrades are this. It's so slight what it takes, that gap, making that sort of work. And what a lot of people keep forgetting is that there's
So having an advertising strategy where you're able to get this amount of new subscribers, or just subscribers, and have this increase in your new users from your downgrades is pretty big deal to do that organically, because it's very hard organically to get enough reach to get that much conversions. That typically takes paying for ads. So, you know, that's a pretty huge deal to take that success story and consider ways you can apply it to your own shit. You know what I mean?
There's almost no difference between an increase in conversion rate, 1% increase, and a 1% decrease in churn. They do exactly the same thing to your growth. However, the latter is actually much easier to do. It's much cheaper to do in your apps. And a lot of times we neglect this to way far along, right? And we usually have our B team works on these sort of products and services. This is actually not the graph that we track most of the time at Woof. It's not even the one I'm proud of. This is the one I'm proud of. Because even though we had this sort of nice, awesome curve of growth, this is what allowed us to scale. Keep the company small, have an awesome culture. And that required doing a lot of these things to help people sort of do what they need. So John Gottman noticed there was a different type of behavior for relationships and why people divorced. Basically, there would be some subset of people who would stay together 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden, they divorce. And there was none of the other indicators would sort of show that this is what was going to happen. And I was looking through the data, and he realized, oh, there's no passion, there's no fire between these people, right? When it comes to relationships, they kind of follow the second law of thermodynamics, right? In a closed energy system, things tend to run down. So you have to constantly be putting energy and effort back into it. Now, the way a lot of people sort of think about showing people that I care about you in products and in companies is to do things like, let's have a blog, right? Let's have a newsletter. The thing is, we look at these rates, and basically, it's such a small percentage of our active users that it was like, most of our users have no idea all the awesome stuff that we're doing for them. So we built a new tool, we call it the Woof Alert System, and what it allowed us to do is just timestamp every new feature that we're building for users, and then every time they would log in, we would look at the difference between their login time, or last login time, and the new features that were implemented, and we had this message show up. Hey, since you've been gone, here's all the awesome stuff that we did for you. Hands down, this was the most talked about feature I've ever had every time I went out to talk to users, right? They'd say like, dude, I love that since you've been gone thing, even though I pay the same amount every single month, you guys are doing something for me, almost every week, and it's totally awesome, it makes me feel like I'm getting maximum value. The other thing that we did, in addition to having everyone support the people that paid their paycheck, is have them say thank you. And this was a large part due to us injecting sort of humility and modesty into sort of the equation. Every single Friday, we would get together and we just write simple handwritten thank you cards to our users.
So on one level, I do think that having a culture where you spread gratitude and try to promote that, encourage other people to express gratitude for things can be a good thing to do. But on another level, when you make someone do something, it's not very genuine, right? So I think there's a line too, and I'm not saying he's blurred the line because I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but I'm just saying, like, when we're thinking of applying this shit to our own business, think of the line between, are you promoting a culture encouraging gratitude versus are you just making people be fake? You know what I mean? Because I do think it matters, in my opinion. And the reason it does is because I work somewhere where I felt like there's this very fake culture encouraged, and I felt like it created a culture and a mindset under this concept of love bombing, where then it's like people were just normalizing a bunch of fucked up shit, but then being like, yeah, but we're great and we love each other, so it's cool. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Like that can kind of happen too. So when you're creating a work culture, you have to be mindful in how you're implementing that, like which way are you going to as well. You know what I mean? I don't know what the fuck they're doing, so let's just assume they're doing it in a good way, right? But like there are red flags that can be tied to the implementation of this as well, in my opinion, to look out for. You know?
And I know there's tons of people who would not be sort of excited about doing this, but it was a ritual that made sort of all the difference in terms of like having a team that was very tightly knit also, and working on stuff that they really cared about. They always constantly knew what the mission was for and why we sort of did what we did. These aren't fancy thank you cards, right? They're just simple, like handwritten stuff on an index card, we threw in a sticker, and slapped on a dinosaur on the front of it. And what's interesting is we started this practice as a result of the early days of starting Bluefoo. Chris, Brin, and I were talking, and we're trying to figure out what are we going to do to sort of show users that we appreciate them around Christmas. And Chris came up with this idea where he said, hey guys, so a couple years ago, my mom made me write thank you notes to all my relatives for my Christmas gifts, and I didn't really like to do it, but the following year, all my presents were super good. So I think we should try this for our business and see how it goes. So that first year, we wrote handwritten Christmas cards to all of our users that first year. Second year rolls around, and we have too many customers, and it's still just the 3 founders. And we were going like, we're kind of screwed, I don't know what we're going to do. And we read a book called The Ultimate Question, and in it, he talks about, hey, just focus on your most profitable users. If you just send them and take care of them, things will work out. So like, all right, that makes sense, that's scalable. So that year, we only write to our highest paying customers. And the January rolls around that second year, and one of our longtime loyal users writes us, and he's basically like, hey guys, I really love that Christmas card you sent me the first year, and I just want you to know I haven't received my second card yet, and I'm just looking forward to it. I know you didn't forget about me. Thanks a lot. So we're like, fuck, because the best way to sort of exceed expectations is not sending to begin with. So we're like sort of in this conundrum. And what we decided after thinking about it for a while is that we need to stop doing it, just one time a year. There needs to be something that's part of the culture that happens every sort of week even. And even though we'll never catch up to all of our customers, just the practice of doing it will make all the difference. I talked a lot about a bunch of like lovey-dovey stuff and sort of like touchy-feely things that I think a lot of engineers don't like to think about too often. And so I'll end on some sort of hard business data or research. There's an article put out by the Harvard Business Review several years ago by Michael Treacy and Fred Wazirman, and in it they talk about the discipline of market leaders. They say there's only 3 ways that you achieve market dominance, and depending on how you want to achieve that market dominance, you have to organize your company in a very specific way. Best price, best product.
What I don't like is this whole mindset under capitalism and in business where they teach that you need market dominance. Like, do you really though? That's not sustainable. Dominating something isn't sustainable in my opinion, because if you base your sense of stability on making it harder for other people to get by, then you're not really creating like long-term sustainability for people. You're just creating conflict, in my opinion, long-term. In my opinion, your business model should never be based on the concept of needing to dominate someone else. You should be able to dominate because you're just the fucking best at what you do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's where he's going. I'm just saying there's been a couple of other lectures where they did kind of argue for like pro monopoly in lectures 5 and 6, I believe, from this How to Start a Startup lecture. And so when we look at the Google monopoly case, for example, we can see, we need to be very careful when we think about building our business and the concept of dominating in the market. Be very careful with that. You know what I mean? It can go very south very quick.
The best overall solution. If you want to be the best price out there, you focus on logistics. So Walmart and Amazon. If you want to be the best product out there, you focus on R&D. Apple's usually a quintessential example of that. Best overall solution is about being customer intimate. This is the path that you see followed by luxury brands and hospitality industry. What I love about this path towards market dominance is that the third one is only one that everyone can do at any stage of their company. It requires almost no money to get started with. Usually just requires a little bit of humility and some manners. And as a result, you can achieve the success as any other people in sort of your market. That's all I got.
So before, that slide had said best price, best product, and best overall solution is what he was saying to do to dominate the market. And so that I do like. I do think that's good advice, because he's not saying go fuck with people to dominate, like, which could have potentially been implied from other people that we saw in this Stanford University playlist, in my opinion, just saying. But he is just saying, be the best. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much. Yeah, let's take some questions. If you guys have any, right in the back there.
Building products that users love, you might have multiple different types of users. How do you build one product that all users love? Maybe there's a feature that one really likes, but detract one from one.
Right, so what do you do when you have a product with lots of different types of users, right? Some users will love one thing, another will another. And I agree, there's an interesting fine line for that. What I always usually tell people is focus on the people who are the most passionate, especially in the early stages, right? Whatever niche it's going to be, that's what I focus on completely. It's things that a lot of different products did. I think Ben Silverman of Pinterest started off with design bloggers, right? Curtail your thing for them, and eventually you'll figure out sort of universal values that will appeal to a lot of other people. So just start one at a time. And a lot of examples that you see up there, a lot of people make the mistake is like, oh, I'll just make my app funny. But humor is like really difficult to do, right? When you want to shoot for something sort of witty, and quite honestly, you have to get functionality right. So like the Japanese call it, if you don't have a katame on there, right, don't try to do anything witty, right, because it will backfire on you. So hands down, our number one focus is make it as easy to use as possible.
And another thing with humor particularly, but in general, true in business generally, no matter what, but you're going to be attracting the audience that you have value alignment with through your messaging. So be very careful with your humor, because that can go south very quickly as well. But that can also out you, depending on where you are if in your decolonizing journey. You know what I mean? Like, for some people, it's not a good thing to try and be funny, because they may not be on a decolonizing journey to have a sense of humor that's actually relatable to people that are different than them. You know what I'm saying? Um, in my opinion, that can often be a thing. I don't know, but I just feel like a lot of times when businesses try to use humor, they they do something. They discriminate in some form somehow. It's like they just can't help themselves. And I get a certain level of we are all human beings born under colonialism, so therefore we all have to decolonize, and everybody can discriminate to a point, and we all kind of suck because we all have to learn to do better to a point. But on another point, you can tell when someone's like, "Oh shit, I didn't know I was that fucking stupid." Well, that's ableist of me. There I go. There I go. See, internalized ableism. I'm I, I'm not perfect. But when someone's just like that's ignorant or that's not cool of me, to do, or that's just like asinine or just an asshole thing to do, like if you start to be able to recognize, okay, like let's catch myself and adjust, because it's like that's where it starts. You first start with becoming aware, then you start to catch yourself and you're able to stop yourself in your track. Then once after a while of catching yourself to stop yourself, you're able to just not do it. That's how it works for me with the way my mind processes. Um, so maybe you're similar, but like everybody has like their own flow with how we process. But I do feel that we all, if we want to change, we have the capacity to. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's keep seeing what he says.
Possible for Wufoo, and anything else on top was polish. Right here.
So I'm co-founder of Retail. So anybody says that focus on your product. I'm also that guy. I love to do product. I love to make it the best. But we are at a certain point that we are focused on our product, but we don't get like customers, right? So, some second thing. So how much we should focus on product, but because we should do now marketing, we should like get some other customers, and like start talking to customers. But when you are too focused on your product, like this doesn't happen, right? So what exactly do you guys need?
Okay, so this guy is saying like how much should you focus on building a product people will love versus marketing it, and you can't market a product. Marketing comes second. Building the product that people love comes first. You know what I'm saying? You can't make someone love something that they're not gonna love. You can show them why they're gonna love something and do that through marketing, but you can't make someone love something that they don't have a reason to. You know what I mean? In my opinion.
You are saying like focus fully on your product and give the best product. So
Okay, so the question sort of is, how do we balance this sort of thing where we want to be obsessed with working on product, yet but all the other skills and sort of tasks that are needed by a company like marketing and branding and all that stuff, and how do we sort of balance that? And the thing is, like, we start juggling like tons of things constantly in the air. The thing is, if you're working on product, like, you should also always have this flip side is when you're talking to users, right? And for us inside of Wufoo, the way we got people to talk to users is they just did customer support, and they got to see firsthand right away whether the feature sucked or not. And it also impacted everyone else in the company because everyone had a customer support shift. So you had this sort of social incentive to sort of make everything work. And so, like I said, there should be no point where you only focus on product. You should always have time where you work on product and then you see sort of what users say to you, and you should always have this virtual like feedback loop on there. So be careful when you don't have that. Usually, what ends up happening, if you're lucky, in terms of marketing and sales, like usually my feeling is like you having to spend money on marketing and advertising, all this stuff. That's usually a tax you pay because you haven't made your product remarkable, right? Word of mouth growth is the easiest kind of growth, and it's how a lot of the great companies sort of grow.
This I disagree with. Where he's saying if you have to spend money on marketing, it's because you're not remarkable or some shit. If I got that right, he was basically saying that. That I disagree with. Because there's only so many people that you're gonna be able to physically reach organically. What you pay for with advertising is to reach people who you don't have the resources in terms of the time and the physical reach. You know what I mean? But you do have the money to reach with ads. That's what you get with paying the money. So, for example, there's only I think I have to sneeze. There you go. Sorry. If I only have so many followers on my Facebook page, there's only so many people that are gonna see a post that I make on Facebook, right? But if I run an ad, I will be able to then get that ad put in front of more people who don't follow me. But without that ad, I'm only stuck to the people who are already more likely in my reach, or people who share it outside of that, right? Or perhaps if something I post lines up in their algorithm, I just might make it somehow. But typically, we can count on a much less uh, capable reach there. So there's when starting off, I don't think you should be running ads because you need to be able to make money organically. And if you're already not able to make sales without running ads, then running ads on a marketing plan that's not making sales will not scale it. You cannot scale a bad ad. You're just going to lose money, right? But if you're already making money off of your ads and you scale that, you will make money. You know what I mean? So to a point, there's something to be said there on that regard, but on another point, it's just like, um, I disagree with him. I don't know. You know what I mean? But that's just me.
So figure out how to like have a story that people want to tell about your product, where they're the most interesting person at the dinner table, right? And then that person is your salesperson, right? That person is your sales force for you. Right here.
Like when you define what is the clear customer or user need and the demand is there and it's the right solution, how do you communicate with engineering and design team to make sure the execution? You sometimes people with a team of ideas and but still at the end of the day have to make a decision of where to go.
So how do you make a decision on product and communicate that with your sort of engineering team when there's like lots of different directions to go? My feeling is that so for us, we just looked at support. It was really easy because you often just saw what are the things that people are having the most amount of problems with, or people asking all the time. You cannot help but get feature requests from people. No matter like whatever opening or orifice you have in your product or app, like people will like jam feature requests in there. So you're easily going to know sort of what they sort of want. Your job as a product person and engineer is to not just do what they say, because that way you just be a slave. Is to figure out sort of deeply what are the reasons why underlying those things and sort of solve that deep underlying reason. The thing is that everyone wants to have a different way to sort of go.
So yeah, if you can't do everybody's suggestions because you'll be spending all of your time and resources just doing things all the time, and you may end up actually fucking things up, you know. But when you pay attention to what people's issues are and then you start lumping, like you write out and you categorize and you lump these complaints together, you know what I'm saying? Then you're able to create systems and groups that solve these root issues without chasing a tail, so to speak. You know, I said chasing a tail, Tawil. What the fuck? Tail. The captioner did not get that right. I did not say towel. I did not say child. I said tail. The captioner sucks. Anyway, okay, let's just keep going.
Then ultimately it comes down to like someone's going to figure something out. But also make the smallest version of each little idea, no longer than a week or 2 weeks to build it out there, and you can try them out and see sort of what works or don't work. I think it's dangerous to have multiple different product directions that requires lots of time to sort of figure out. Sam.
Related to that, can you tell the story of how the King for a Day thing became?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't like hackathons. I think they sort of suck in terms of one's done inside of companies because you spend like 48 hours like working on something really hard that you're sort of passionate about, and 99% of them never make it to production, right? And it's sort of like super sad. So for us, we like flipped it on its head. We came with an idea we call King for a Day, and it actually worked over the weekend. But how it worked is someone randomly in the company got drawn, and they got to be the king, and the king got to tell everyone else what to do on the product. So everything that was bothering them about Wufoo, it was like customer support or some feature they really want to have built, they got the engineering resources, the marketing resources, advertising resources of everyone inside of the company to make it sort of happen. And of course, we worked with them to figure out like what can be actually done in 48 hours. But we would do this 1 to 2 times a year, and it was like a huge hit, and it was a boost and morale because what people most love is like working on things where it's like, oh, I made a difference to the app. Right? And so for us, that's one way that we would like sort of divide time for like product direction. It's like sometimes the people that work for you, they have a strong opinion about where it should go. And it's a good way to sort of democratize it a little bit by rotating it around. Yes?
You said you guys all work from home. Usually seems like a nightmare. Do that office. How do you make that work?
Okay, so we all work from home. So we'll tell you this. We all still work within the Tampa Bay area. We would allow anybody to work from anywhere, but usually...
So this was obviously before, you know, modern times. So 10 years ago, the concept of remote work was like extremely frowned upon. Like people did not take people that work from home seriously. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm very interested to see like how he was still, you know, being taken seriously in a time where people were not for doing this, because someone else was basically saying if you're a startup working from home, you won't make it. And so here he's like, yeah, man, we work from anywhere. Fuck it.
As we try to recruit them, they sort of meet our team, and they just decide, okay, we just want to come and move here anyway. Remote working is especially tricky. A lot of people like to romanticize it, especially people who are like employees. But the thing is, an office gives you a lot of sort of benefits, right, and efficiencies that you don't have to compensate for when you have remote working. But remote working also have these other sort of efficiencies in place. For example, I don't have to worry about my employees losing 2 hours of their day to commuting, for instance. So the biggest thing that we had to do for remote working is to respect people's time. And so the way we had it set up is we actually had a 4.5-day work week at Wufoo. Half day on Friday was for all the meetings and stuff. We said like no biz dev meetings, no talking with other outside parties. They all have to be done on Friday on that half day. It couldn't be done in the middle of the week. And then also 1 day of everyone was already dedicated to customer support. So everyone in our company effectively only had 3 days each week to actually build or work on whatever they were doing. But I actually firmly believe that if you have 3 solid days, right, 8 to 10 hours, where you're only working on what you need to build, you can get a ton of shit done. And so what we said was you have to respect everyone's.
Now, I really like this because I worked at one place I was expected to be in meetings every fucking day. And I didn't have like a single day where I could just do nothing but work. You know what I mean? Like, no, I love that shit. Hell yeah. Yeah.
Time during that 3-day period, if they're in that 3-day period. And what we came up with is a 15-minute rule. And the way it worked is you can have a discussion, like a chat or a phone call or whatever with someone, but it could go no longer than 15 minutes. So if you have some complicated issue that you couldn't figure out, we'd say at 15 minutes you are to immediately table that item, right? And have us discuss it on Friday, and you'd move on to the next item on your list, right? The enhanced productivity. More often than not, I would say 90% of the time, the item never got brought up on Friday. Because usually what happens is people would sleep on it, and then they just magically say like, hey, I found a solution, or like, hey, that's not a big problem whatsoever. Because most problems inside a company, they don't need to be solved in real time or right away. The only things are when the site is down or payments aren't working, right? Everything outside of that is basically kind of luxury. So focus on your priorities as much as possible. And as a result, our 10-person team did far more than many, many other companies as a result. But it takes extra work to make remote working happen. We're an extremely disciplined sort of team, and I would have to say there's almost not many YC companies that actually have been able to replicate sort of what we do. I think there's only 2 other companies I think in YC that sort of have the same sort of discipline working style. It takes more work in a very different fashion, right? An office allows you to be a little bit lazier, right, in terms of all these things around productivity. Okay.
And also back then, they didn't have a lot of the tools that we have now to make remote work easier, in my opinion. Like, they didn't have as many video chatting options. They didn't have the types of integrations with chats for working systems. It wasn't as common and integrated as it got now, in my opinion.
Over here.
Just to build up that question, as a leader of the team, how did you manage to instill a company culture, right? And also like have accountability for employees, especially in the same working space?
Okay, how do we set up accountability for employees as a manager? All right, so at WooFoo, we were profitable 9 months after launch, so we had profit sharing, right? And so it makes sense, it's pretty simple and clear. It would be a multiple of whatever bonus pool that we sort of had, and the performance measures would be based on sort of how they did in customer support, right, on their duties there, and sort of what they said they were wanting the accomplish or do. I don't like process, and I don't like lots of tools to help get people to be productive. So the only thing that we had for helping people manage sort of their projects is to-do lists, and that was like simple text files that we shared in a Dropbox account. Each person had their name on it, and you got to see every time someone updated their to-do list. When we said is every single night you just said everything that you did that day, right? And then on Friday we would just go over, okay, this is what you said last week that you're going to do, this is what you actually got done, what are sort of the problems at hand. And it's super simple, right? It creates this like nice written trail for how to sort of handle stuff, right? And I don't have to worry about managing them, right? They sort of set the tone for how they want to be sort of assessed, and it makes it really simple. And for people who are excellent at what they do, right, it works very, very well. And then when you actually have problems, it's very easy to fire people. I was fortunate that I never had to fire anyone at WooFoo, right? But we were able to correct a lot of people's behavior very, very quickly because we just kind of look at this. It's like, look, this is your pattern of behavior. You finish a fraction of the items on your list. You do most of the items at the last second right before Friday. That's a problem. You got to manage your time better. And this is evidence that you've provided to us. All we have to do is sort of describe it back to you. And because everyone in the company sort of sees it, right, there's social pressure that's put into place that helps make it all sort of happen. Right here.
How did you hire people that you felt would be able to work remotely in this kind of environment that's not standard?
So I hire people that can work remotely and sort of work in this sort of fashion. So pretty easily, you have them work on a side project for you. So you contract them out and they have to work remotely as such. Usually the project I like to have them work on is about a month long, right? I can do things much faster for a week. We usually get a good sense of like how well people sort of manage themselves and work on things from a project like that. So that was always the first assessment. Like we never did anything just by interviews. The other thing I had to sort of screen them for is the ability to do customer support because not every engineer sort of has empathy skills to handle that stress. So sometimes I would have people write.
So if it means that they hired them on a probationary period and then they determine whether or not it's a good fit after 30 days, then that's pretty standard. But like the whole concept of we don't do a regular interview, we just see if we can work together for 30 days and then decide. I'm like, I don't know though, because yeah, you're paying them what you would if they're getting paid what they would if they had the job, then that's cool. But if not, then I'm like, but you know what? He didn't mention that. So let's just assume, right? Like, so, but yeah, this is interesting to me.
Breakup letters to me, right? In an interview, just like, hey, pretend like you have to break up with me. You have 15 minutes to write it down there. You can only write by hand. What are you going to say? And so you get a good sense of sort of the writing skills because like 90% of what you do in customer support is tell them bad news. Like, we don't support that feature, sorry, that's not going to work, or it's not going to be available. And so people have to have sort of tact at that. One question, right here, glasses.
Cool. So it seems like you have all these like tricks and experiments that really help the company. Give me stories of ones that didn't work out.
I have all these tricks and experiments to help the company. Are there any ones that didn't work out? All right, I'll talk about one. So one of the things that we did early on to try to motivate ourselves was try to get, like we understood this idea of like crunch mode and that it's really bad for people. Like if you're doing a subscription business, you need people to last for the long term. And video games, a lot of times, like crunch people all the time for like a specific deadline or multiple sprints every 2 weeks, and you have to shoot up to this deadline, and it's like exhausting. And so because when it's happening, you might get an increase in productivity, but the recovery period that you need for people is always greater, right, than the productivity you gain. And in a company where you need everyone doing customer support and being on their game and constantly pushing out features, you don't have time for recovery. So we were thinking about, okay, we want to build like a company vacation into how WooFoo sort of works to reward our users every single year. And we said, okay, if the vacation is sort of built in there for the recovery, we can have one crunch period right before that vacation setup, and we'll just only do customer support that will sort of scale with people. So the way we did the very first crunch mode is that it was just between the 3 founders, and we had each of us draw a 10-item to-do list that would be fairly aggressive. And the first person to get through 7 other items would win, and the last person to get through 7 other items would become what we called trip bitch. And trip bitch meant that you carried the other person's luggage and got people drinks when you're on the company vacation. So we did that, and during that period, everyone was like pretty excited about it and motivated. And the winner got to choose the next company vacation the following year. And then all of a sudden, Ryan had basically poorly estimated the items on his list, and he realized very quickly, I'm going to fucking lose. And so he was just like, I give up, and he just sort of stopped. So crunch mode turned out to be blah mode for him because he knew he was going to lose and became pretty demoralized. So as a result of doing that, we decided not to do it in that similar fashion anymore. So good idea that we like to talk about, but it's one that we never did again. All right, guys, thanks a lot. You can email me at kevin@ycombinator.com.
Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at nola-child.com/. Oh shit, man. Fuck, god damn it. I just realized I wasn't unmuted. God damn it. I had done a nice little outro and I wasn't even unmuted. That's so annoying. I just realized I was muted that whole fucking time. I hate when I fucking do that. I hate when I fucking do that. Okay. Round 2 and the conclusion. Fuck, god damn, it's so annoying. Okay, so fucking, I basically just gave a summary on this shit, but I was muted, so that sucks. But we're doing it again. So we just went through Google's code red or code yellow. What the fuck did that mean? You know what I'm saying? So code red or code yellow, we found different information from the sources about where it came from. I don't know if it came from Star Trek or if it originated with Google. Competing information there. I thought it was a traffic signal reference. Apparently that's a common misconception. Who knows what it really came from. Apparently code red refers to a emergency crisis, but that they limit it to spending a certain amount of days on, versus code yellow is also an emergency crisis, not as an emergency as code red, but they spend months on it. The similarities are both emergencies. They, in both situations, the teams prioritize whatever those emergencies are, and everybody else will drop anything to prioritize that, basically. I was reading in there, they were saying that for code yellow, they'll actually go home and sleep, but for code red, they don't sleep, eat, or drink and shit. And I don't know if that is a metaphor just to exaggerate, like, or to drill in how serious they take the code red and yellow, but if that was literal, I think that's a bit inhumane. If that was a metaphor, then I guess it's just a sign of, like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like metaphors, like when you're speaking colloquially to your friend, like, oh man, I was working so hard, we didn't even eat, sleep, or anything for months. Like, something like that can kind of be like, I get that, right? Because it's just like about expressing how much you felt like you were working. But when it's something like legal documentation or news reporting, where we are then analyzing these working conditions, I feel like maybe that's not a good time to use that metaphor where it could be taken literally, or where we are actually questioning these literal aspects that you then decide to use as a metaphor, because it's like, well, are you or are you not joking? Because if that's your answer when you're being questioned on these things, it seems like maybe that's the answer, right? So it's not that don't understand the metaphor or can't take a joke, but it's like timing, right? Um, so yeah, so that was my thoughts on reading all of that. And then we also fucking went through the how to start a startup playlist. We've been doing my reaction to that, and today we checked out Kevin Hale's lecture on how to build products that users love. I really liked this lecture. I thought it was really good at connecting the emotion to analytics, and I really loved what he was talking about with imagining people's faces whenever they are engaging with your product, and thinking about what are people's emotions when they're interacting with you. I really liked his conversation on that. So I thought it was a really good lecture. It's probably one of my favorite events so far. So yeah, I'm really annoyed I was muted and I didn't realize it. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And yeah, I'm going to just end this bitch. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at nola-child.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.